And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicenda. I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard, and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation, along with interpretive dance. We just got a lot of really good things happening. We are here today to play. I'm going to pronounce it CBR+PNK. I guess I actually have never said it out loud before. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, just making sure. We've actually got two of the team members here with us, both the original author of the game, as well as the publisher, Ray. Ray, you are going to be running for us today, but Emmanuel, you're the original designer of this game. We've interacted about this a lot because it was the first minimalist Forged in the Dark game I'd seen. I can't imagine there aren't other ones that don't exist, but it was just such a tremendously beautiful package. It caught my eye initially when you put it out. Tell us a little bit about this game and tell us about kind of what it is and the original creation of it. Then I'm going to have Ray tell us a little bit about the project that's live right now.
Hi, I'm Emmanuel, pronouns he, him. I'm the author of CBR+PNK. Initially I designed this game just to play with my friends. I wanted to play Blades in the Dark, but they wanted to play Cyberpunk, so I just tried to mesh together the two genres. But they weren't experienced enough to play like very crunchy games. I think Blades is not that crunchy, but there are some details that for whoever is not used to some RPGs, especially narrative RPGs, it could be a little difficult. So I shrink it down to the bare minimum and just to run a one shot for them. And I guess it worked out, and I try to improve the graphics, just take it off from the Google Docs and put on a pamphlet. And I'm so glad that it was well received and inspired other people to make similar things with the Forged in the Dark engine. It's such a good, full of possibilities engine.
Yeah. I loved it. And speaking of all the great things people have done with it, Ray, why don't you tell us a little bit about the project? It's live on Kickstarter right now. You can go to ttrpg, CBRPNKKS, which is CyberPunkKS. It's also right below my face on the screen and in the description. It'll take you right to the Kickstarter page. But Ray, why don't you tell us a little bit about the project that's live right now?
Yeah, so the project is to fund a printed run of CBR+PNK, CyberPunk. I have a hard time pronouncing it too. I never know what to say, like CBR+PNK. I think that's my go-to. But I was one of the early purchasers of the project, like right when it came out, I think, because I was super active on the Blades in the Dark Discord at the time. I was running a bunch of games with playtest groups, and I picked it up. And I think within a couple of days of it releasing, I was like, let's play this with a bunch of other developers, and had a really, really great time. And what caught my eye with the project is just Emmanuel is like crazy, right? Like he's not only a designer, but he has built everything about the project, from the graphics that you see to actually designing the physical product, right? And it was designed to be printed on the pamphlet at first, even though it was released digitally. And I thought, wow, how awesome would this be if, yeah, there you go. How awesome would it be if that was an actual like physical product and in like a box set with other ones? So that was kind of the pitch I gave to Emmanuel, and he was super down for it, and we've been kind of rolling with it ever since. So the actual Kickstarter is to fund, you get a box set, you get both of the GM and the player's pamphlet, and you get a couple of other supplements as well. Mind the Gap, which is a scenario that Emmanuel wrote, as well as Predator and Weird, which are supplements that add on various things. And I do believe we've hit most of our stretch goals now, so you also get a bunch of other scenarios from stretch goal authors, and we're just thinking about ways to add more, and things that we can do to make it. So our vision for the project is to have like a really cool slipcase that contains everything you need to play, so you can just bust out the table and boom, 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 4 pamphlets, good to go.
I love it. Yeah, the slipcase is tremendous, and I am super excited to get one into my hands, and for other people too. I love taking minimalist games and then putting them in maximist presentation, right? Like going to the exact opposite end of saying, how can we make this small, very simple, very clean thing look as crazy, amazing, beautiful, and be as phenomenal of a product as we can. So it's a thing that hits me right in the feels, and so I'm super excited about it. We've got Jeremy in the chat also too. Hey Jeremy, also on the screen. If you're in the chat, tell us where you're watching from. Chat with Jeremy. Let us know, and if you've already backed the game, we'd love to hear from you. If you've got questions about the game while we're playing, we'd love to hear from you also too. So feel free to ask if you're in the chat, and sometimes we might need some ideas, and so chat, feel free to toss them out whenever you think we're stalling out. You feel free to give us ideas and try to keep us alive. With that said, we always use a couple safety tools while we're here on the channel anytime we're playing, really to keep our game on track and make sure everybody's having a good time. Those are lines, veils, the X card, and the open door policy. Lines and veils people are probably familiar with. They're things that may happen in the world of our game, but don't happen in the course of our play of it. They're off limits. Veils are things that may come up in play but are handled within a specific context. And then X card is the ability for anybody to say X, type X into the Discord. We'll pause the game, we'll identify what the issue is, and we'll move forward in a different direction without that content. It could be because of confusion, something's coming up. It could be an issue that you have an objection to that we didn't put on our list initially, and we can always update that list as we go as well. And the open door policy is the fact that we're all real human beings. Surprise! And so you might see us eat, drink, need to get up, talk to somebody off screen, all that's normal stuff. And we're going to take a break about every hour to make sure that we get a chance to stretch our bodies. If you are out there watching, you need to eat, drink, stretch your body, talk to somebody who's not on the screen. You should do those things also. Take care of yourself, people, and we will also. With that said, does anybody have any lines or veils that they want to add? We always have a strong line against sexual violence, but I love to keep other conversations open in place so people can hear the kind of things that come up for folks. Cool. All right. Remember that we can always hit the X card anytime we need to, or message us. We can talk about it during a break. So with that said, I'm going to hand things over to Ray to take us into CBR+PNK Wonderland.
Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you. So we're going to jump straight into it. We're going to kind of frame the scenario. So I want you to imagine that it is Los Angeles in the year 2022, 200 years from now. The air is arid and dry and almost always hot. There's toxic rain falling intermittently in between massive dry spells that go on for years and years. Poverty is at an all-time high. The city has expanded into a megalopolis with various class stratification. If you've ever been to Los Angeles right now, I'm in Los Angeles, and it's pretty awful right now. There's a huge homelessness problem. Magnify that homelessness problem, and maybe in your cities, by a factor of 50. So everywhere you go, there is crime, there is poverty, and there is stratification. It's in this world that you find yourselves, but you're not in Los Angeles itself. No, you're on the outskirts, somewhere off in the mountains of San Bernardino, in the dry, arid wastes. And you find yourself at a small little niche-themed cafe called The Hungry Goat. Neon signs buzzing everywhere. And from the outside, you can hear Katy Perry playing. This is a vintage bar, one that tends to play the classics from 200 years ago, ones that you may know in your real life. And you're here to meet somebody who has promised you the job of a lifetime, the job to end all jobs, the job that can get you out of the rat race, the hellhole. So I want you all to describe what you look like as you enter, and just talk a little bit about your characters and introduce yourselves that way. And I'll ask some follow-up questions, see if we can dig a little deeper into who you are and what drives you, and we'll go from there.
Cool.
So
Jeremy, you wanna
let's
start us
pass
off?
spotlight. Let's start with Sammy. Let's go with you first.
All right, so as Dot walks into the cafe, she is about 5'10", and built. She is a boxer, and in the augmented league, so her arms are obviously enhanced with cybernetics. And side shave, kind of silver white hair, flipped over to one side, and wears a burgundy coat. I tried to go as close as I could with what I had in my closet, but there's a limit to what I can do.
What is the worst injury that Sammy has had in her professional career?
Sammy or Dot?
Dot. I'm sorry, Dot.
Because those are two very different answers. Dot once got punched in the face and broke the bridge of her nose and the bone that kind of goes around like that. And yeah, it was not a fun time. Let her guard down for half a second, and that was all it took.
Awesome. And let's go to Emmanuel.
Well, you see this slender type male in his 30s, all in black with a hood up. He's coming from the back of the room very slowly. And you see like a glimpse of his face is all marked in geometrical shapes, like and then moves slowly, like he's trying to keep them together.
Nice. Let's go to Jeremy.
So Marco walks in, stylish, cool, long dreads, dark sea skin, comes in. Angel, take the regular cafe leche, and then this little teenager starts to like beat him out to the door. Bruno, don't you touch my bike. And then I head over to the table with the others.
Yeah. Tony?
Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So Google is doing this thing where it's loving to drop my microphone. The audience will still be able to hear me, but y'all will not be sometimes. So I may not have muted myself. My microphone started doing this a day and a half ago. I haven't figured out what the problem is yet, but Google is upset right now. So FYI, so we see Skills walk in, and you can't tell if this is somebody with just a strong affinity for classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle vibes, or somebody who just is very withdrawn into themselves. They have kind of a backpack that comes up over their shoulders, almost as a shell-like structure. They've got a hood pulled up, kind of tight. A lot of mixed greens, and they are they don't look. Visually, it doesn't look like they have a lot of injuries, but if you pay attention, you can notice they walk with a pretty pronounced limp as they move across the room.
So as the four of you approach, you all know that you're here meeting your fixer, Big O. Big O, despite his name, sits at a measly 5'8", got some chest hair showing out, big old rim glasses, casually lying there in his puffer jacket, and in front of him is a sprawl of 6 different types of milkshakes. He signals to you, he's like, come on, sit down, all of you. Good to see y'all. He takes a sip of one of his milkshakes. Yeah, they got the good stuff here. 43% real milk, goat's milk. Please help yourself. He gestures to the other milkshakes on the table.
Yep. diving right in.
I'm fine trying to watch my sugar intake.
I just push one away from me.
So I take the straw and like drip it out and like pay close attention to the viscosity of the droplets as if I'm somehow measuring whether this is safe to consume or not.
Yeah.
And if it does seem like it is, then I absolutely drink it. If it does not seem like it is, then I absolutely do not drink it.
So skills, it smells really synthetic. So I want you to describe sort of like what it smells like, what flavor it is of a milkshake that you have, right? And what gives it away as just sort of like artificial smelling.
Yeah, so this is the local, like, this is the circuit breaker flavor, and you know, like if you look at the milkshake wall, like and even like the cafe leche that Marco ordered, like, has a little bit of this kind of burnt rubber smell to it, you know, which they say is just, it's just part of that good I love that Jeremy took a drink right as I said that. You know, they say is just like, you know, it's a byproduct of the surrounding environment, like it's not anything, but it's a telltale sign of really poorly made synthetic milk, and so, like, yeah, it is 43% real milk, but it is also 57% high synthetic milk, and the circuit breaker specifically is like this weird kind of greenish color with metallic strands kind of pulled through it, that looks almost like somebody had tossed a literal circuit into the blender with it, and it's always on sale because it's the least popular flavor at the Hungry Goat.
And Dot, what's yours taste like?
Well, if there was a pink one, I would have gone for the strawberry. But I mean, strawberries have been extinct for 60 years. Who knows what strawberries actually taste like, right? So,
Right.
it says strawberry on the board, but who knows?
But strawberry is spelled with a 4, and so
Big O looks at you, Shift, and looks at you, Marco, who have not taken the drink, and kind of has a quizzical look on his face and goes, "What's wrong? Not a fan of milk?"
I'm allergic.
Yeah, me too. Doesn't stop me from enjoying it.
I
just
literally
belched out.
already have a drink, so
That's fair. That's fair. So, y'all are here. You ready to get out of this place? You ready to transcend your existence? You ready to break the shackles that bind you to this hell on earth?
if that translates
Or-
to money, yes.
Yeah. Creds. It's always about the creds with you mercs, isn't it? Never just about living life, being bigger than yourself, bigger than the game.
Well, being bigger than the game doesn't pay the rent.
Yeah, no, I suppose it doesn't. It ain't cheap buying fresh milk after all. All right, here. And he slips from his deck on his wrist, pops up, and he kind of swipes over to each one of you. And on whatever cybernetic augmentation you have, there pops up a link and a transfer button or transfer button. It says direct transfer from user Big O, accept Y/N ?
I Wyatt.
Mm-hmm. Oh, likewise.
Doop, doop, doop. So what pops up is loud. It's like one of those things where you have YouTube on and you're not expecting the volume to just kind of blow out your ears, and it just goes wonder, wonder, wonder. And I want you to imagine the most cranked out, based out, ballistic trailer that you've ever seen for one of the craziest parties of all time. So you're seeing people reveling in masses of crowds. You're seeing people dressed up as circuit performers, people spitting fire, people just going around in a funhouse of mirrors. And it says, the legendary party Spring Solstice returns for 2022 on the Spring Solstice, and featuring, and you see just this visage of a man with these most luscious locks ever. And he's on the DJ decks and he's just going, woo! And above it pops up Shiva, Shiiva. And then very, very quickly, it pops up, back from the dead, dead. And then another box pops up. And the box that pops up is now like a news report from Fox News, basically, or the Fox News equivalent. And it says, live today, news that the legendary DJ Andrik Shulk, otherwise known as Shiva, spelled with 2 I's, has died of an overdose, passed out, and it goes to a candlelight vigil of all of his fans mourning, and all of these social media messages of him, of people basically mourning his passing or mentioning it and how it trended. This is from a couple of years ago. And then at this point, Big O, he pauses the screen and goes, DJ Shiva, back from the dead. I don't know if it's real or not, but I do know, and pops up 2 more screens, beep, 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 and you have slick looking Asian dude with slick back hair, looking super corporal, about as corporal as you can. Bruson, chairman of ZGD Enterprises, has some primo tech that he lent out to this guy, and it shows a picture of a man who has this youthful exuberance about him, kind of like a 5 o'clock shadow, and he's wearing a large, kind of oversized plushie of a crown, like a big plushy crown, basically. Ed Paschal, organizer of Wonder for the past 10 years. I don't know what kind of deal he's made with ZGG Enterprises, but I do know that whatever this is, and it pops back up to Shiva and the Wonder commercial, back from the dead. I know that whatever's powering this is going to be worth a fortune. So, and it kind of pops out of the augmented reality, and you see Big O again sipping on his milkshake. What do you say? You in? You down? You ready to find out what the Shiva is really about?
We all already touched the Y on our cyber decks, right? We did
Yes.
that? Okay, cool. Yeah. We already did that. We said yes. We're contracted. Come on, Big O, you know this. Jesus.
Hey. Kids these days, all about them contractual agreements. So he gives you the rest of the deck, and you see that it's a huge drive folder, right? And it's got all sorts of various details about the massive rave known as Wonder, and it's got sort of all of these various things that you can find out, from the location of it to details about the security. It's basically got your entire score planned, right? And all of the sort of entrances and all of the things that you would need to sort of go in there. But for the sake of our mechanics, because we're playing CBR+PNK, and this is a Forged in the Dark game where we don't do much planning, we sort of just jump straight into the action. All I really need to know right now is what kind of engagement, like how do you all think that you're going to handle this? So we have a choice here. You can choose from assault, deception, stealth, social, or transport. And then we're going to kind of cut to the action and sort of jump straight into what happens from there.
Yeah, that's a great question. Anybody have any pitches on what they think our normal mode of operating is?
Well, if you ever worked with Shift before, you know that he always chooses deception.
Yeah, skills is 100% a non-confrontational. They are a, if we can avoid a direct physical confrontation, skills is always going to go with that route. So I'm 100% down with deception, but I don't know how everybody else feels about that.
Well, Dot, whose runner handle I forgot to mention earlier, which is Blaze Noir 6969, because
Nice.
I outsourced the naming to Twitter, and I am full of regrets.
Twitter came up with a lot of really bad cyberpunk name handles when I asked. My recommendation is anytime you need a cyberpunk handle, ask Twitter, and just go with it.
Yeah. So Dot's modus operandi would normally be assault, but she's worked with people before and understands that going quiet first usually helps. And when it inevitably hits the fan, she'll be there to clean things up.
I like to enjoy the party, so deception is fine if I can hang out for a little bit. I don't mind.
Sounds good. Sounds like deception. It is then.
Deception it is.
Yeah. So I guess the detail that Nas is, what are you going in disguised as? Is it going to be just revelers who are partying, or maybe performers, backstage people? What are we thinking about deceiving? How are we getting into this joint?
I think your best chance is going as backstage.
Yeah, skills 100% would love to blend in with the crew, and try to work the event.
I think I'd like to perform, probably. I mean, you could be the crew of my performance. That sounds good to me. Yeah. If that's cool, Dot. I mean, you are already a entertainer in some regards.
Entertainer. I punch people for a living.
And people love it.
True.
Okay, so it sounds like we are all going to be deceiving as Marco, your roadies, basically. So you're going to be as like the DJ, like one of the openers of the show, and the rest of the crew is going to come in as your roadies. Does that sound about right?
Think so?
Cool. Okay, that sounds really good. So I guess before we get into it, maybe at this moment we can take our first break, just so, and then from there I can hard frame in, and then we go from there.
Cool. Yeah. And just so everybody knows, like this is actually a pretty common place to take a break in Blades, period, not just for stream, because it's a good time to give the GM a chance to say, oh, this is what you want to do. I'm going to go make some notes real quick and incorporate all that in, and then pop back in. So just FYI, from a play standpoint, 100%, we're going to do that. But it's also good for us also too, because I did not have lunch. I'm going to go do that during our 5 to 10 minute break. By the way, during our 5 to 10 minute break, what you should do is head over to ttrpg.link/CBR. CBRPNKKS, Cyberpunk KS. The link's down in the bottom corner in the description of the video to go check out the Kickstarter. Back it if you haven't, or hit follow me if you can't right now but want to later. It's an absolutely beautiful project. Want to encourage you to go check it out, and we'll be back in about let's say 5 till, so about 7 minutes. Ray, if you need a little bit more time than that, then we'll take a little bit more time than that. But yeah, just for everybody else, we'll be back in about 8 minutes to play more Cyber plus Punk. And we are back live on Plus One EXP, getting ready to infiltrate the rave and explore. Explore? I don't know. Yeah, sure. Explore the realities around the resurrection of world famous DJ Shiva, having just left our milkshake and Katy Perry binge. I'm going to hand things back over to Ray to take us back in. Ray, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Thank you, Tony.
No
I was
problem.
on mute. So, the massive rave known as Wonder takes place in an abandoned solar farm. So out in the outskirts of town, not too far from that milkshake facility, actually. And the perimeter is marked off by kind of digital barriers, right? Just sort of imagine a line of like yellow tape but made off of yellow perimeters. And there's all sorts of stuff going on there. As you enter from the VIP/performers entrance, you see a massive drones above you, and they begin floating into the formation of a massive bunny head that begins to move its ears left and right. And you hear over the loud drone, "Welcome, welcome to Wonder." And you're taken backstage, and the plan goes off without a hitch. You're there, you're in the performers section. While there, you notice all of the other famous DJs and performers and whatnot doing their thing. You also notice Ed Paschal, that person from the briefing, talking to a bunch of ZGD, what you assume are ZGD corpos, people in suits. And he looks to be having a pretty heated argument with them, and he kind of leads them across no matter. Skills. I'm assuming you're the one who's responsible for tracking down sort of like the where Shiva is in terms of the data of whatever is happening, how that person is back from the dead.
Yeah, like I think there's like, you know, we did like other than a solid webcom, like, you know, and figuring that out. Yeah, that's my primary task once we're on site is to start to look into that data.
Okay, so that is definitely happening, and you are seeing it pinged. You're pinging sort of the location of where that data is going to be, and so can you describe to me sort of like how exactly you're doing that? Like, are you accessing a terminal? Are you on your cyber deck? Like, what is the case? Also, I guess this, for the sake of the rules too, this is a good time to choose load. So in Cyberpunk and other Forged in the Dark games, instead of having equipment on hand, you merely choose what type of load you have, light, medium, or heavy, and that determines what items then you can quantumly bring into sort of the scenario when you need them. And don't forget that you can also flashback whenever. So you can flashback if you need to show that your character or characters were preparing something. But given that this is a deception scenario, we're in a giant rave, what's the loadout for everybody? What do we bring? How much stuff are we bringing?
I'm going with light. Maximum 3 gear.
Skills is a Boy Scout mentality, so it's always be prepared. So I've got heavy.
Okay. Marco, looks like you're going heavy as well.
Doing normal 5.
Normal. Okay, normal.
Going light. The only guns I need are right here.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm using my vernacular as a magician. Be like, I need all my shit. Don't touch my stuff.
Yeah. And I think, you know, we that's kind of the shtick. Like we're moving in a lot of boxes. We've got a lot of equipment. And I think that's kind of like between, like, I'm the one who's I wouldn't say I'm carrying a lot of it so much as a lot of it is with me, given that I am not a super physical character. But yeah, I've got a big box of goodies that I brought in with me. Yeah, so I think what we actually see when I come in is like I pop like 2 drones up in the air and they start like projecting out what looks like kind of holographically projected stage dressing. Like one of them actually like is blowing a little bit of smoke to let it filter that, and then what they're actually doing is they're starting to tap into the local system as they get near some of the different like relay pods. So I'm using entirely like anybody who walks up can see like I've got a holographic screen in front of my face, and it looks like I'm managing the drones, but what I'm actually doing is hacking in through the drones to the local system.
Very, very cool. And Marco, you're the linchpin of this whole score. You're the face, right? You're the one who's actually deceiving as a performer. So could you describe what exactly you're doing and how, like, what kind of entertainment are you for this massive rave?
Yeah, so I misheard what they asked for. A rave usually has musicians, and I thought magician, very cool. And it's something I used to do as a kid growing up. So I've enlisted the help of Dot to be my grumbly assistant to help put on a amazing show. But on the underside for the job, I've put tracking devices in different cards so that I'm going to get our important individuals those cards so we can keep track of them at all times on the field.
Very nice. And Dot, you're assisting Marco in that shift. What are you doing to start this operation?
Just whatever I'm told. This is outside my area of expertise, so
Yeah.
I'm going to assume I'm being fed my my cues by earpiece.
So Dot, you're obviously really good with your hands, or you have those gorilla lightning hands, right? Augmented hands. How is your finger dexterity though with those cybernetic implants?
Surprisingly good, actually. The gorilla part is less about size and more about strength. Meat muscles aren't as good as cybernetics. So
Gotcha. At Shift, where are you in all of this?
Well, I am just waiting for the orders to I'm in the shadows, and I'm just waiting for an opportunity to like infiltrate their crew, Shiva's crew, mimicking the face of someone important that I can get like closer to him, them.
Yeah. So Marco, you have a group of VIPs around you. People who got into the backstage, and you're doing your thing. And I want you to describe what exactly is your thing, right? Like what kind of magic tricks are you pulling? Like how are you impressing this crowd here?
I think I'm going to, since it's so far back in time, I'm going to emulate a lot of like David Copperfield, super long storytelling when I'm only really touching the deck like 2 times. And it's just like, was this your card? But, my grandfather, when God bless his soul, now that he's gone, left a ton of money for us, but said the location of it through a very like proverbial story. And I go on to tell this proverbial story about how you have to be a better person and just do an honest day's work. And at this time, like giving cards to all the VIPs and stuff now don't worry, this isn't a single pick your card. I'm actually going to know all of your cards. So keep tight. And I actually hand the deck to Dot to hopefully just sort of like as a misdirection. What actually those cards are doing, in addition to help Shift out, is that they're giving facial bioscans. So Shift can pick any of the VIPs to blend in as in the crowd if they so choose, or like give them doppelganger openings. So that's what I'm currently doing. Just doing a very long, weepy David Copperfield situation in like a close-up sort of zone.
The holograms absolutely play out like this story of you as a young child with your grandfather in the background above your head as a misdirect also too.
That's awesome. You know what? I think that's a good opportunity for our first roll to see how well the biomasking works. So let's build that dice pool. So
Sure.
In Cyberpunk, what we do is it's a D6 game. So you build your pool based off of your approaches and your skills. So you always have an approach. The approach describes how exactly you're doing it, and the skill is the skill in which you're doing it. And then I, as the GM, set two things basically. I set the threat and the effect. The threat informs the danger posed by the situation. So, what could possibly go wrong if it goes wrong? Like, how bad would it go? And I think effect measures how much you can accomplish. It is by standard, both of these things are set to 2. So I think that sounds about right for right now as well. I don't think you're in any sort of risk. You're still kind of concealed. I really just want to see if there's maybe a complication that occurs down the line for you kind of getting these stealth, or maybe if it completely fails and backfires on you. And yeah.
Sure. I think in this particular scene that's been set, I'd like to offer my approach as empathy in terms of not being stealthy. I'm not really trying to like convince anyone of anything, or I think all of the conjecture that I'm giving is just like how deeply can I pull them into my story, and that is the misdirect. And then I'd also like to add the skill of streetwise, mainly because this isn't like based on my understanding of the two different words between influence and streetwise. I feel like streetwise is a little bit more like casual and like feelings based, whereas influence is very much like a political wheel and deal, or like trying to push someone's decision in a direction. I'm just trying to like make sure everyone's having a good empathetic time here while we're doing the David Copperfield thing.
You also are literally pulling a classic streetwise con. I mean, essentially also too.
You're not wrong.
Yep. So you have 2 in empathy as well as 3 for streetwise for a total of 5 dice.
And isn't there something, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong for the sake of explaining the rules of the game to the viewer, but isn't there something when I have 3 points in a skill?
There is. That is a good point. Let me bring that up. Unless if Emmanuel, do you know that off the top of your head while I look it up?
That means you have a specialization. Which specialization do you have?
My specialization is how do I want to?
Right.
I don't know if I could phrase it in a single word, but like relaxing people, kind of de-escalation, if that matters. Like just getting people to like calm down or be like very at ease while talking with me. That's my like to remove hostility from a situation.
I like de-escalation as a
Escalation, yeah.
De-escalation. Cool. Yeah.
You can use that to forfeit a die and add an edge on your action.
Okay.
That means you can like increase your effect or decrease the threat.
Okay. And you said correct me if I'm wrong, you said the threat was 2. What was the effect on empathy and streetwise?
2 as well.
2 as well? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to spend the die, go 4 dice, right? If I'm doing this right. I like to use 4 dice here to try and have a greater effect, if that's possible.
So is that how it works, Emmanuel? Like they spend the dice? Okay, great. Yes. Okay. Yeah, trade 1. I see it. But you can trade 1 die for an edge when applicable. Okay, cool. So 4 die, effect 3.
Sure. Let her rip, Beyblades.
All 2s.
Yeah.
All 2s.
That is, I do have a 6.
A 6? Okay, so a 6 is a success. So let me describe the people in front of you. Actually, I'm going to let Dot describe them because they're there. Dot, I'm going to give you the context, okay? So Dot, you recognize this person as one a very, very famous influencer, someone with over 50 million followers on whatever platform of the future, right? And I'm thinking sort of the equivalent of like a Kim Kardashian type of the near future. So
Mhm.
what about them aesthetically? Like, what is the look, right? What is the look of 2022 that is oft emulated from this influencer?
A shocking amount of neon in the clothing. It's kind of like sewn into the edges, like where you would see piping on a uniform is just RGB neon.
Beautiful. So this influencer's name is Alice Lane, and I think any of you who surf the net would recognize them. And she is now, you now have that disguise or that biometric Marco. So that is available to you. So maybe what does that look like when it comes into your, like, what, how does your deck or whatnot determine that that's a success? Like, what's the thing?
Yeah, I think there is like like you see a wireframed human shape that starts out very blocky, very polygony, and then it gets smoother and smoother. It's just like as they're sort of like, I want them to hold on to their card as long as possible and like show it to their friends. And what they're really doing is like putting it in each other's faces so that they are scanning themselves.
So good.
And then as soon as I see that one is pretty much got an almost indistinguishable match outside of like anyone actually touching shift at some point and like passing through the hologram, but I immediately pop that over to shift once that's done.
Okay. So as that's happening, Alice is holding the card in front of her and she looks at it, and the trick is revealed, right? And she squeals, "Ah! Oh my God!" And she claps, and her little entourage look at each other and they, and they all clap together. And as that's happening, Skills, you're honing in, right? You see with your drones that it's feeding towards what looks to be sort of like a ziggurat type of structure that they've built up here, right? That seems to be sort of where the central server of things are, and you're kind of triangulating in. And just as you get those coordinates, though, Alice grabs your wrist, Marco, and is like, "You have to come back to the VIP section. You have to show the trick to everybody else. Come on, let's go."
I just thumbs up. I guess. Yeah, just in order to sort of pass the scene off, I'd like to leave either two options here from, I guess that is, Dot can come with me and then we can be a part of that next scene whenever that happens, or Dot and the others can start moving into the more like, I've got the full distraction of the higher ups by myself, so like those three can be a part of like this next scene. So it's up to Sammy what you want Dot to do, but I'd love to invite you if that's possible.
Yeah, Dot hasn't been told to stop acting as your assistant, so she's gonna tag along.
Thumbs up means anything. Cool.
Yeah, I think what we see is like, I'll take one of those drones and it's a very small like little flittering drone that was like, one of them is going to come and like land essentially on your shoulder and go back with you, Jeremy, and go back with Marco and Dot. And the other one is going to focus now on just slaving into that ziggurat, and I'm going to stay up here with it. And wherever Shift goes.
And Shift, I'm going to say that since you're the silent shifty type, that you are the one in the party that recognizes that we're talking about two distinct areas, right? So the ziggurat this way, VIP on main stage like that way, basically. So that's like information that you have.
Well, I'm going to follow Marco and Dot from the distance, just to prepare more. And I also have some cyber eyes that I can analyze and like face match and try to find other important people that could be could get us closer to Shiva.
Copy that. So let's go to skills first. So skills, one of your drones is now with Marco and the rest of the gang. But what are you doing in this moment now that you have the information of where the data is?
So I'm like, so we had one drone go there. The other drone, as the show ends, like goes and lands on top of the ziggurat, or moves over to the ziggurat and attempts to land on top of it, to start speeding up the relay of information and start to kind of dig deep into like downloading it and pulling it in where I can, so that I can synthesize it.
Yeah, that sounds like a roll to me. So let's build that dice pool.
Cool. So I would say this is smartness. Is what it feels like. And then are we making a roll to see how much I get? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, and also I think that through your visor, as the drone is floating over the ziggurat, you notice that the ziggurat has a bunch of security all around it, a bunch of yellow shirt and red shirt mooks along the perimeter, but also chilling on one of the layers of the ziggurat. You notice that it looks to be, there are various other mercs there, right? Like kind of just guarding the perimeter of it. One in particular is chromed out. Let me roll dice to see who is on here. Yeah, so just a chromed out full Borg with just the most hard edge features, but his entire body is exposed. He's basically like a big jack like gym bro, but with like a chrome chest and the six pack, kind of looking at you. I'm imagining kind of like a Doom. Is it called Doomfist? Doomfist from Overwatch,
Yeah.
Okay, and he's just sort of like kind of just sitting down with his arms rested on his knees and just having a smoke on one of the ziggurat steps, but instead of smoking it to his mouth, maybe puts it like to his throat, like kind of like a cyber kind of thing.
He's got a port there.
Yeah, a nicotine port. And I'm gonna say that this is probably a threat 4.
Okay.
This is a heavily guarded area. And your effect here, it is gonna be hard because I think that there's definitely gonna be some sort of like network security around this place as well. So I'm gonna say that it's gonna start as effect 1. So threat 4, effect 1 here.
Cool. So I have analysis. So what I want to do first then is I want to make sure that so skills is a very cautious individual for somebody who does all the stuff that we do. Like within the realm of the type of people we are, I'm very cautious. So I want to start off by getting it by mapping the security system, which happens to be my specialization for analysis also too. So I just want to take in basically what is my approach rather than other runners who might just be like, oh, it's just going to do it. My method is always like, let's map the security system first and let's hit it second. So that is going to be a dice pool initially of 5, but I am going to do the same thing. I'm going to trade 1 for the edge on that. I think probably, and it's been, having not played the system, I think what I actually want to do is trade that to not increase my effect, but reduce my risk.
Okay. So you're down to 3 threat, but you're still at 1 effect.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
What am I doing?
So you have 1, 2, 3.
Oh no, I'm just trying to look for my dice. Sorry.
Got it.
I was on vacation last week, and so I don't have any physical dice with me, so I'm having to roll digitally. So I got a 5 as my highest result. But I got yeah. And
okay.
then,
So
go ahead.
I think as part of that mine, the initial mine, you get a profile of all of the various mercs that Wonder has detailed out for security, including that guy sitting there. So you know him as the full Borg, known as Matip. But in addition to that, there's a whole bunch of other mercs here. There's Queen Maeve, T-Pain, Cornelius Sludge, Local 88s, a group of them, and the Seven Samurai, right? So Seven Samurai, Local 88 groups, Cornelius Sludge, T-Pain, and Queen Maeve as solos of this group. Queen Maeve, I'm imagining, looks like what's that actor from Westworld? Somebody help me out here. Westworld.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. I'm gonna say it on stream. I'm gonna say it publicly. I'm gonna say it proud. Local 88's shit. Worst mercs out there. Like, look, if you can't make it into the local 50 or under, I'm not worried when I bump into you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why there's a bunch of them as opposed to a few.
Right.
So yeah, you got the security lowdown in terms of the mercs. Complication. Let's see. Okay, complication here. I think that the complication, the obvious one for me, is that Matip notices your drone looking up, and he sees it kind of hovering nearby, and he is going to get up, and then he's gonna crouch down a little bit into a half jump, and he's gonna leap into the air, and you just see him go like Super Mario basically, and he's gonna go and try and swipe it. So I'll allow you a reaction if you want to sort of like react to that and try and save your drone, but
Sure.
Or you can just let it go.
No, I'm gonna save my drone, if at all possible. I am going to let's see. Describe the ziggurat a little bit more for me, if you would. Like, I mean, I know what a ziggurat is. What's it made out of? What does it look like? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it is. Let's say it's roughly the size. It's a pretty big structure. It is let's say about 60 by 60. It is made out of mostly steel frame. It's a steel frame, but then they put sort of like plank wood or something over it as the actual step. So it's not like a permanent structure, right? It's something that they built kind of in haste. And so there's layers, there's steps to it. So there's 5 different layers. So, you know, base, and then it goes upwards like that. And it's also, and I think you probably know this because of your drone, it's also like pretty cool inside, right? There's a lot of like cooling on the inside.
Excellent.
So yeah,
that plays exactly. So like, I think we watched my drone hover for longer than most people would think was reasonable. And then right as he's about to hit it, it's just going to drop like straight down and try to slide into a crack and go inside the structure.
Okay, let's see how that goes.
So I would say probably, I mean, piloting is what I'm going to use for the drone. I think smartness still again, because I think I'm pulling a trick on him. So that's going to be 3.
Yeah, and I think that the threat here, I'm going to set it at 3 to reflect that, you know, the drone can definitely be taken out here, and that's probably not good for the score as a whole, but I don't think that you're going to be personally affected immediately.
I've got another one somewhere else. Well, my thought, yeah. So I got a 6 also too. So like, so yeah, we watch it drop down, and straight into one of those cracks.
Yeah, into the crack, and in there, and inside the actual building, it's just a massive server room. So just bunches and bunches of racks and racks and racks, and just sort of endlessly labyrinthing in there as well. And with that, let's cut back to the other gang. So Alice Lane has now led you to the VIP area overlooking the main stage. So it's kind of like a balcony area that's overlooking this massive laser neon lights. And she has you in front of a huge crowd again. and it's asking you to perform the same trick. I love this. The same trick, Marcos, and shift through your identification. Through your eyes, you've noticed that the other two huge MVPs of the show are here as well. So Ed Paschal, who you notice was arguing with a bunch of the ZGD Corps, but also Bruce On, the chairman of ZGD, who's now with them, and they're in a booth and they're having a discussion as well over there. So yeah, what do we like to do here?
I think I would like to set up both Dot and Shift to like start getting some physical action underway. And how I would love to begin that execution is it's like, well, Alice, if I can call you out, Miss Lane, which do you prefer?
Alice is fine.
Cool. Alice, you've seen the trick. People down there have seen the trick. It's against the magician's code to showcase the same trick in the same venue more than once. You don't want, I know you want to figure it out, but do you really want to remove the magic of it? Instead, I have a different trick. I will need some additional supplies for the follow-up of it. And Dot, could you go back to the backstage and get those for me? I appreciate that. Or Blazing Noir 6969.
Nobody can simmer runner handle with a straight face.
Yeah.
But we'll run back and grab stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so the trick I have for you, and I pull out a couple of they would be generally wool or cloth balls for this trick, but they are, since it's cyberpunk, more like flexible plastic piping. Like you can kind of squish them, but they retain their shape. So I have this cup and ball trick. And actually, one of the balls, I'm going to mark off special grenade here, and it's going to be an EMP grenade. And I'm going to put the balls in the cups and start to do the trick and start to tell this very long story about, a long time ago before there were neon lights in cities, there was darkness. We only had fire and each other's company. And I start to do the trick, and I start to say, it's going to get dark, and my comms go on in 3, and I'm doing the trick, follow the ball, 2, 1, and I push down on a ball that's hidden underneath one. If anyone doesn't know the ball and cup trick, they hide all of the balls inside of the different levers of 4 or levels of 4 different cups. I push down on one of the cups, and the EMP goes off, and it short circuits. Since that, what is his name? The Wonder leader, Ed Paschal's up here. I want to just deactivate basically everyone's comms and cyber decks that are within the immediate 10 feet of me, so that Shift and Dot can just start doing things without Ed being able to be alerted.
Cool.
I also, when I hear that on comms, I turn off my drone that's under.
Yeah. It's going dark. You can have it fly away if you want to.
No, I feel like that would be too telling. I just turn him off, and then
Sure.
I'll be able to turn him back on whenever.
So that's what I would like to do. I would like to use those sets of methods with the special grenade item ticked off to set up Dot and Shift to be more mobile in their next scenes.
Great. Okay. So a setup action, you make an actual to give an edge in anyone's future actions. So I think that fits perfectly. I think that the threat here, let's say that it's still at a 2. I don't think you're going to be put into immediate harm. I can see it kind of going out of hand though if the EMP goes poorly. And I think the effect as well, we're going to set it as 2 as well. I think it's pretty standard here.
Yeah, I just want it to be a very localized effect. This isn't like a blow the whole rave in an EMP. This is just the immediate 10 feet around me. Not to reduce any consequences, but just for the sake of the narrative. I think that my approach here, I'm going to game myself. I am not going to go with empathy. I'm going to go with stealthy this time, just to lower my chances a little bit. I think that additionally, this is a little less of a streetwise
situation. I might go tech here, really just to goof myself. And I will also push myself for an extra dice, giving me 3. If pushing works the same as other Forged in the Dark games, is that correct?
It does, yes. So
Okay.
in order
So
to
dice
push
are
yourself,
effect, right?
Yep. You have
Okay.
to spend stress to push.
Cool. I'm going to push for an extra dice, giving me 3 total. So 1 for stealthy, 1 for tech, and then 1 for pushing myself to use some of my resources. I marked off special grenade. This is a setup action. I will now initiate the roll. That is going to be a single 6.
Nice. Okay, success. So what's it look like? What happens in the immediate?
Yeah. So I'm doing the cup and ball trick. Everyone's sort of watching. I'm maybe like 88% done with the trick before the local EMP goes off. And I'm like, to not break character, I'm continuing with the trick as though nothing has gone awry. But everyone in the immediate areas, cyber decks and comm links and anything that they could use to get in touch with like other mercs or guards. I'll bait, if you wanted to be a funny GM, I'll bait anything like super encrypted. But other than that, I think everyone just can't get in touch. They start to notice that like their cyber decks go out, and maybe that's okay. It's kind of like when the power goes out in your house and you finally start to like play a board game with your family because no one's distracted. So like, I mean, I'm sure Pashel Ed can be like, I have no context.
This is Alice's first time off stream in like 3 years.
Yeah.
So I think Alice notices immediately, right? Because she's, constantly streaming. So, but she just remarks like, "Oh, that's too bad. It must be because there's too many people, right? The networks are overloaded." Because it's a 6, nobody notices in a negative way. Ed, I think, is too engaged in that conversation with Bruce, and they're not even checking their decks, and they're just sort of going off. So that setup is a success. And Dot and Shift, you now have a blank, sort of like a little electronic safe area to make some moves if you would like. What would you two like to do?
I would like to take the shape, the face, and the gesture of some kind of security to get near Ed and Bruce and trying to listen what they're talking about.
Yeah, so I think that just happens, and I think you can overhear Ed say, "I told you it wasn't ready. We shouldn't have pushed this on me." And it's like and you hear Bruce say, "We have very strict deadlines within our contracts, and if you were to breach those contracts, it could potentially threaten the solvency of your entire company. Nothing is going to happen. It's going to go off with a plan. It's going to be the biggest show that you've ever had, and ZGD's tech will show once again why we're the cutting edge in artificial intelligence." Basically, is the gist of what you overhear.
I pass this to the team.
And Dot, any moves here?
Dot is actually really involved with her role as Marcus's assistant, and is actually going to bring the stuff they requested. Because kind of completely forgot about the actual job and is just super invested in the role.
Yeah. So I think once you hand off that stuff, one of the people in Alice's entourage looks at you and gives you what looks to be, like a USB port, and is like, "Hey, you want to hit?"
I'll pass, thank you.
Suit yourself. And he just plugs in, and you just see their eyes dilate, and they just have this like dopey smile on their face as well.
Yeah, don't do tech from strangers.
Don't do tech from strangers. Yeah, you never know what's gonna happen there. I always have to, whenever I'm running this scenario, I feel like I always got to tempt somebody. It's like who's gonna pick up the random thing and what's gonna happen from there. There is a table with random stuff too. All right. So Marco, Shift, Dot. Any other sort of actions we want to do in this scene right now before things move along, escalate? Yes.
I think I'd like to prompt that escalation. So, I love a forward-moving narrative. So I will finish the ball and cup trick. Everyone's sort of like just casually talking. I think that again, to sort of like goof myself, I think an EMP of this caliber maybe only last a max of 10 minutes. Like, I think it's very easy to restore everything. Shift, I haven't gotten Shift's information because that includes my electronics. So I don't know what Shift has heard yet. And I think that after about the 10 minutes, everything starts to kind of like flicker back on and get back to its normal working order. I think we have like a let me clarify what our objective here is real quick for me, Jeremy the player, because I may have lost it in all the magicianry. We are supposed to find out how Shiva's back from the dead. Is that correct?
Yes, and it's some sort of tech-based skills has identified it as within the ziggurat, and that's where he has been piloting the drone. But Marcos and the rest of the gang got kind of distracted by Alice and is in the VIP section, which is far away from that. But Shift is over here in the conversation, etc., etc.
Cool. We're having drinks. We're sitting down. It's lavish and lush over here. There's champagne in my hand, and I'm sitting down next to Alice. And listen, Miss Lane, I know you said not to be formal, but I don't know if we're on like. Do you think we're friends at this stage of talking? Is that something you feel is appropriate here?
Oh, yeah, sure. I can add you if you would like. Once the web goes up, it's a little bit. I'm sorry.
I think that like in that little bit of fumbling, I kind of like just gently push down the phone. Alice, I mean friends, right here, right now. After all the story, you know more about me than anyone, and maybe also the same amount as the other 10 people in this room about me and my grandfather and my hard life growing up. I'm really interested what's over there in that big structure. I think you call that I've heard it, a ziggurat over the course of the evening. Do you have any way of pyramid? Pyramid. I get it. Why have so many names for the same thing?
So dumb.
What is in there? Is like a Shiva in there? Shiva? Like, I would love an autograph. And if I know you, we all know you, right? Do you think that we could hang out with Shiva before their performance?
Like, meet Shiva? Well, I mean, I don't know if I heard that they were performing, but I'm not really sure how that's supposed to happen because he kind of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Shiva. I used to hang out with him all the time when he was around. But Ed over there told me to show up and that it would be a good time to publicize it, and I would be totally shocked. And but as far as Shiva, Shiva's dead, aren't they?
And that's exactly what, if this is this is a business matter now, I'm sorry, I'm here to help. And it sounds like that you need to understand the plan of how you're going to publicize with Shiva. And luckily for you, Dot here, and I, in my mind, Dot's not in this intimate conversation, but is like, so I just love that that Dot has come around to like being an assistant and is maybe like really casually chatting up someone, is like enjoying the party, which is nice. I think, Sammy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's nice that Dot is like warming up to the party.
Yep. Yeah, sorry, there's a cat knocking shit over on my desk.
Exactly. There's a cat here. It's knocking over everyone's drinks. You're laughing, having a good time. But Dot over there is actually only an assistant by face, but is actually my manager. And I would love if you could. I'm sure Dot could help you. If you and Dot don't even take me. I think it'll be too much of a distraction if I go. Take Dot inside, chat with Shiva, let it be a whole thing. You'll be ready for the big announcement when Shiva hits stage. Bada bing, bada boom. And this is Jeremy, the player, speaking. I'm willing to make a role here to make this happen and gimp myself even further and empathy influence. Ooh, what a not great word. Goof myself further into like an empathy influence role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that does make sense. Let's build that pool. I think that right now, I don't think that you're in too much danger in the situation yet. However, I will say that I think that it can, let's set it at 3 because I think that there are ways that it can kind of spiral out of control. And I'm going to set that effect as 2, which is the standard to begin with as well. So let's see how that goes.
Could I pass since no one had used my setup earlier, could I pass my setup to this role?
Absolutely.
Cool. So that would increase my position. Is that correct?
It would give you, yeah, it would either or. You choose one. So lower the threat or, yeah.
I'm going to increase the effect.
Cool.
Because I want to give you some arsenal if this goes poorly.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to do empathy and influence. I have no influence. I have 2 in empathy. Let's see, how much stress do I have left? Boop, boop, boop. I used 1 earlier. I'll use another. What is it? A 1-shot? I'll take another dice.
It's our last run, you know?
Yeah, it's our last run, baby. So that's going to be 3 die 6, 2 for the empathy, 1 for the pushing myself, 0 for the influence. That is going to be a 4, so a partial success.
A partial success. Okay, so I think that Dot, if you're okay with it, you could. I think Alice can definitely lead you towards the ziggurat, and you can move up over there. And I think that the complication here, and this kind of goes across. So skills. You've been focused on the ziggurat so far, but then all of a sudden you notice that source of information that you're looking after, there's other spots all over the venue now that suddenly like start flashing with that information, right? And you're not really sure what's going on, like why it was so centralized and all of a sudden it's being decentralized to these different areas. But Marcos and Shift, you can see on the bottom over there that first of all, the main stage, right? It starts going up, the lights go up, and you hear the opening song for Shiva, one of their most famous songs, go up, and the crowd starts going wild, right, and starts cheering, and you just see a giant sort of like holographic projection of Shiva's face with the locks, but in sort of like a polygon matter, just sort of pop up as sort of the main thing to look at on the stage. And you hear the crowd go wild below. But you also notice that there are some people in the crowd who they're kind of grabbing their heads like this, and they're just kind of going, "Ugh!" And you hear little sparks too, like as if like something is kind of going off, right? And you see like these people just sort of like seizuring up every once in a while, like 1 in every like 60 people in the crowd are doing this. And you're not the only ones that begin noticing it as well. The other people on the VIP area, specifically Ed and Bruce over there, start like it gets pointed out to their attention, and they're looking at it and they're like, "What?" And then they turn to their decks and they notice that their decks are off for the first time. Ed turns to Bruce and he says, "See, I told you the technology wasn't ready." and I'm going to start a track here, and this is going to be called Shiva's Back. And this is going to be, I'm going to set it to 12. So we're going to have 12 ticks on this, basically. So this is like, let's say from this complication, the first 2 have already ticked. And this is sort of like, I'm not going to tell you really what happens, but it's an escalating track. So like things are just going to kind of start going off the more that this track is filled, basically. And with that, I'm going to throw the spotlight either back to Dot or Skills. So Dot, you're now at, let's say some time has passed or a little bit of time has passed, and you're there with Alice's entourage, and you're at the ziggurat, and Skills, your drone is obviously inside there as well. So either of you, if you want to do anything here.
I'll let Dot go first, and we can zoom inside the ziggurat afterwards.
Yeah, well, setting up Dot for a social encounter was the worst idea ever, and I'm here for it. Hang on, sorry, the cat had to leave. So Dot's going to be looking for any kind of tech that might be the source of the projection of Shiva.
Yeah.
And kind of half-assing a conversation with Alice, but not doing a very good job at it because her skill set is punching people, and that's about it. So,
you know, your magician friend was really a lot more interesting. You're not really that great of a conversationalist.
That's why I do this job and not their job.
Yeah, so Dot, I'm gonna say that at this moment, somebody approaches you that you're pretty familiar with. You're hunted, right?
Yep.
Okay, so who are you hunted by, Dot?
I am hunted by my ex-girlfriend, from whom I borrowed conductive plates for my gorilla arms. So I have electric knuckles that I borrowed from my girlfriend, and when we broke up, I didn't return them, and she wants them back.
Awkward.
What's your girlfriend's name, or your ex-girlfriend's name?
Oh God, I didn't plan that far ahead.
No worries. How about let's see, grab a name here.
More important question: does she know she's your ex-girlfriend, or does she still think these plates are coming back?
It was messy, mostly my fault, but you know.
I'm gonna say that her name is Harmony. And Harmony approaches you, and Harmony now, in lieu of the gorilla arms, she's got one mantis blade, basically. So one blade is basically just a permanent sort of, or one hand is basically a permanent blade. And she looks to Alice first, and she says, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, this place is off limits for all of the attendants, even VIP." And then she looks, she goes, "Dot?
Hey, Harmony. How's things?
How are my arms?" And she looks, "I see you're still using them."
They're great. I just need to keep borrowing them for a few minutes. I'm in the middle of a thing.
Middle of a thing, huh?
Yep.
Let's I don't think she believes you. But I don't know if you want to roll for that, if you want to try and persuade her that, but
yeah, sure. Let's go with my 1 empathy.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Threat 3, effect 1, because you have past history with her, so you know,
yeah.
There's always going to be a little bit of bad feelings.
So if I have no skills,
2 dice, roll, take the lowest.
2 dice. Okay.
But you have an approach, right? Empathy.
Yes. Which is a 1.
So you're gonna roll the 1 dice.
Yeah.
You can
Just 1
also
dice?
push yourself, take a stress. And
Wait,
you're gonna-
actually, if I think that supersedes it, right? If you have no skill, I think it's two dice
it?
take the lowest, no matter what. Let me see.
I'll trust the
no
designers.
dice. Emmanuel, do you know?
They take just 1 dice for the empathy
Okay,
and 0 dice for skill, so they roll
1
1
dice. Yeah, 1 dice.
But pushing myself is a good idea because this is a critical check. So I'm gonna.
I also feel like anytime you're talking to your old ex, that you're pushing yourself probably.
Yep. So
I'm
gonna,
actually hoping for a poor roll because I really just want to like Scott
Start
Pilgrim
bashing heads.
Wallace from the banister. Fight!
Oh, believe me, it's happening. It's
Yeah. Okay. So I have 1 dice from empathy,
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna push myself for a 2nd dice. Oh no. That's a 1 and a 2 on the dice.
Harmony just looks at you and you see her blade. She goes, it starts glowing like blue, and she goes, "Dot, you are so full of shit!" And she just starts. She goes for you. She just swings at you with the blade. And I also like what? Okay, so what little thing really pissed her off about you? What small petty thing that could she just like never let go of?
Dot always puts the toilet paper on with it going, so it goes down towards the wall, and that just drives Harmony mad because she has to have the toilet paper going so it drops down farther away from the wall, and that wasn't the breaking point, but that was one of the straws on the camel's back.
Yeah. And then I'm also going to tick a couple of those Shiva clocks. So I'm going to tick 3. So we're at 5 out of 12. And I think what you start seeing here is more people in the crowd, right, start having their synapses pop. They're like, and just start frying. More red dots all over the place, skills. So you're looking at it and you're basically seeing from the centralized server of the ziggurat that it's spreading like a network, right? It's spreading to basically every single node that is around the venue, and everything is on a node, right? Everybody is on the node, on multiple layers, and every kind of device, every lighting device or whatever, it's all sort of like popping off red at this point. And also, I think that let's keep the spotlight on Dot for a moment. Let's see you react to Harmony swinging at you.
In true fighter fashion, I'm gonna hide behind Alice. Kind of. I'm gonna like.
Oh my.
So basically, my plan is to kind of like step backwards, stuck behind Alice, so she's in the way, and then just book it as far into the VIP area as I can.
Wow. Okay. This could only end well. So I think that's let's build a pool for that. So I mean, your intent is to use her as a shield, though, right? So, like, on a success, just clarifying. So, like, on a success, you will have successfully put Alice in between you and Harmony.
Yeah, I'm hoping Harmony has the reflexes to not stab
Right,
Alice, but we'll see how this plays out.
Fair. Okay.
Just over a set of comm links. No, Dot. Frontal assault.
Yep, we're getting there.
So I think that is, let's see, so an approach, right? So are you
Yeah.
being stealthy here, empathetic, aggressive, smart?
Well,
Trying to be.
I don't see, because using a human shield seems kind of like the opposite of empathy.
Unless you're trying to
Yeah.
convince her to be your human shield.
Please, just
Uh,
stealthy. I feel like stealthy would apply.
feel like,
a little bit.
yeah, stealthy, and I think reflexes might be
Yep. That sounds
'cause-
about right. So 3. Okay, so threat level obviously is pretty high, so I'm gonna set that as a 4. I think your effect here is standard, so 2, 2, and 4.
All right, so I have 1 stealth and 2 reflexes, so I think that means I'm rolling 3 dice.
Yep.
Oh, that's better. 5 is the highest.
5 is the highest. Okay, so you have. So tell me what this looks like. You getting Alice in the way. Like what like describe the physical moment, and I'll kind of interrupt.
All right, so with Harmony going for the stab, Dot basically just kind of falls backwards on her ass and just kind of shuffles backwards really quick, and then scrambles to her feet and runs to the side, putting Alice in between me and Harmony.
Yeah, and I think Alice dodges out of the way too as Harmony swings down, and she goes, "Oh my OMFG, are you crazy? What is happening?" Right? So she kind of scrambles away, I think, in the moment, and runs off after Harmony misses. But that still leaves you Scott Pilgrim style with Harmony, the jilted X. And then with that, we're gonna go to skills really quick. So skills, you're inside the server room with the drone. What are you up to?
Am I inside the server room, or is the drone just in the server room?
The drone is inside the server room.
Yeah, so I see all this happening, and I have to make a decision. Do I help my fellow person, or do I just keep on hacking? And so like I am incredibly torn by this, because I'm like, but then I'm like, you know what, this is 100%. This is what Blaze does, right? Like, this is what Blaze loves to mess it up. Because I don't recognize the ex-girlfriend at all. I'm thinking like, oh man, Blaze must be so excited to be mixing it up. And so like I'm just back into hacking. So so initially I just kind of mapped out the security system, and so now I'm kind of ready to make my dive into the system, especially with this, like these kind of popping and explosions and people kind of freaking out. I think it's actually going to push skills into a slightly different mental space of like, oh man, something bad is happening. I need to go faster. And so I'm going to start trying to dial in and figure out specifically like, okay, what are all these other nodes that have come online, and what is happening here? So I'm gonna just hack down into the system to try to figure out what's happening. This is probably less of an analysis role and more of an intrusion role. So I would say I'm probably coding at this point in time.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that no matter what skills is going to get in, right? So you're going to get into whatever is, you're going to hack into it. You're going to be within the net. But the role is going to determine what happens to you there, basically, like what, cool. So you might not like what happens. Cool. So yeah, let's build that pool. And I think that here the threat is, I'm going to say that it's also at a 4. It's pretty high. It's elevated, but you are actually hacking in, so it's not like they're aware of you at the moment. And the effect, it's going to start out as standard as well too.
Cool. So it's smartness for 2. Coding is 2. I actually would love to. I'm gonna push myself. I'd like to be able to go faster. So I think what I'm trying to do is increase effect, probably.
Okay. So it's up at 3.
All right, cool. Oh, dice rolly, roll me some dice. Give me some good numbers that are not bad. I got a 6.
Hey, okay. So the torrent of data goes by you, Matrix style, right? Kind of the X's and O's. And then at a certain point, it turns red. And then I think what I want you to visualize is that it sort of starts forming into a shape, and it's that same general shape of that curly-haired person, and their back is turned to you, but you can kind of see them, and they're just sort of like crouched over in this virtual space, this sort of like amalgamation of like this code, and they're just there, and they're staring at their own hands, and you can see that from them the code copies, right? And there's like another sort of like copy of that simulcrum, and then that sort of just goes off and just shoots off into wherever it shoots and just kind of disappears. And that's happening like once every like 6 seconds or so. It's just taking copies.
So what I'm seeing is I'm seeing this core, and it's Matrix style, where the guy's like, you see ones and zeros, I see blonde, redhead, brunette. I see this figure materialize out of the code. And it looks like they are replicating themselves, and those replications are shooting off to other places in the system.
You got it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, this feels like a good time to share information with my teammates. And I was like, hey, and here it's literally like you hear click on like comms, and you hear, we've got a problem.
Yeah, we do.
Damn it, Todd! Frontal assault.
Wait, what? I thought you'd be happy. We don't have time. We don't have time to talk about what that real quick. Hold on. It looks like this figure looks like Shiva, correct? Like this figure that I'm seeing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It looks like there's some sort of Shiva program in here that's trying to replicate itself and shoot itself out across the system. I think that's what's causing the explosions, and it looks like it's not too great for people who it's interacting with either.
Could you do something about that if we bought you time?
Could you turn it off?
That's the plan.
Cool. Sammy, my question to you is, what is your intention with running back to the VIP? Does that intention running back to the VIP space involve me, or is it something different?
I may have misunderstood. I meant to run deeper into the cigarette.
Heard. Cool. So since that doesn't involve me, then my next question is to Emmanuel and Shift. Do you think that so Marco is like walking along the catwalk, really heading in the direction of Ed and was it Bruce? Excuse me.
The execs.
Yes.
Yeah, Ed and Bruce. So I'm walking that way, and as I'm sort of like not engaging with people, kind of overcoming. Shift, if I can get you a bioscan of Ed and keep Ed busy, because you head to the ziggurat and buy some extra time for
That
skills.
would be perfect.
Sick, nasty. So I will attempt a sort of role here, if that's okay with everyone, to kind of casually bump into Ed and Bruce and use a combination of empathy and streetwise expertise to de-escalate their conversation, and really just like hold a card in my hand, like, hey, I'm the magician from earlier, just kind of like wave it around Ed's face to send the bioscan to Shift, so Shift can like maybe take Ed's persona, talk the mercs or bodyguards off the ziggurat, and give Skills some extra time to do some stuff.
Beautiful. Let's roll it. I think that
Since I'm already disguised as a security, could I assist Marco, like pretending that I'm scanning him and like looking for something?
Absolutely.
So I spend 1 stress to assist.
Mm-hmm.
Six.
Bonus die.
Does that plan sound thumbs up with everybody? Cool. All right. Well, then I am going to attempt my roll of now 6 dice in this case. I'm sorry. You have to set the threat and effect. So my approaches are empathy and streetwise.
Okay, so I think that they're pretty agitated at this point. So I'm gonna set the threat at 3, above from 2, because it's not like you're an immediate threat, and I think effect is still at 2 as well. So 3 and 2.
Sure. since I have 6 dice because of Emmanuel's assist, I would like to spend a dice because of my expertise in de-escalation to roll 5 dice and increase my effect from that point forward.
Cool. Sounds good.
Cool.
3 and 3.
And since this is, we're kind of after the halfway point of the show, and I would love for something hairy to happen, is there a higher effect I could go for if I traded in some position or some threat?
Yeah. So the attempt right now is to get their telemetry, their biometric data, right?
Yeah, and then have Shift sort of use that to buy time for skills. And Dot in this case, since Dot is now running a whole nother scene.
Okay, I'm back.
No, you're good. So if there's something greater than effect 3, if there's an effect 4, I'd love to try for that by trading threat for that.
Okay, so let me just think about what that looks like. So you're attempting to get the biometric data and also sort of like distract them so that Shift can get down to the ziggurat, right? So what would like greater effect look like there? Like what else would you want to accomplish here with that effect?
I think that interesting. I think that it allows.
Do you want to take like a forward? Do you want to essentially add forward to Shift's roll?
Yeah, could it just maybe passing along a stronger position for like coupling in a setup, if that's okay?
Like maybe it's it's a seamless hologram.
Well, how about this? Like if you're successful, maybe you can pickpocket something off them as well.
Awesome.
So
cool. I didn't want to I wasn't trying to force interact with the NPCs
I got you.
too much with what I. So yes, that was my other option. I would like to maybe remove something on the cyber deck or whatever, while doing a very quick hand trick or something, just so no one can communicate, Ed.
Yeah, let's roll it and see what happens.
6. So have the assist, spending 1, increasing my effect, trading position to increase my effect again, which means I'm rolling 5 total dice, 2 for empathy and 3 for streetwise, with the expertise of spending that dice being de-escalation. Just so everyone watching is following along.
Nice explanation of the rules.
Oh, that one doesn't count. That is a 5, so partial success.
Partial success. Okay, so I think you get the telemetry data for sure. And I think that the partial success though is that as you're if you're okay with this, as you're sort of pickpocketing, let's say the deck off of Ed, though he kind of catches your hand and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Sorry, people always get weird about this. Here, you can actually, and I will actually pass over my cyber deck as collateral and be like, sorry, it's just something I do for the trick to there's a little hologram that would pop up. Sorry, didn't mean to give invasive, because Jeremy, the player, didn't want to fuck with the NPC too much, so there we go. But I did it anyways. So here's mine. Check it out. Whatever you got to do. Sorry, didn't mean to breach trust here. Magician's code and all.
Right. He kind of turns and he kind of speaks out of nowhere, and he's like, "Get rid of this clown. I don't want to see him at any of my shows again." And you notice out of the corner of your eyes that there are so it's Wonderland themed, right? So clowns with top hats, right? Kind of like the performers. And they kind of surround you on either side, and they basically grab you, and they're kind of detaining you for security purposes now.
Could I'm trying to exploit all just to showcase the game. Could I flashback here, whatever amount of stress you think it requires, but could I flashback and say that a bunch of the people from the VIP room followed me and are hype squatting me so that this doesn't turn into that? Or could the other option be I make some sort of resistance roll to not be detained?
Either works, so your choice.
Let's go with resistance, because that seems less variable to me.
Choose your approach that you're resisting it with.
Empathy.
Okay, sounds good. So you roll 2d6 and you subtract 6 from the highest number, and that's the stress that it costs, I believe.
Whoa, heard. Highest or lowest?
Good question.
No, it might be highest because it's too interesting. Interesting. Cool. Cool. I'll let it fly.
Oh wait, no, it's just. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. It's just a mark on it. So it's. So what'd you roll? What?
I rolled a 1 and a 4.
1 and a 4. So you mark 2 stress.
Heard. Cool. Yeah, so I'd love to resistance roll being detained, and this is now like a matter of pride talking myself out of this scenario. But I will, after that point, I would love to give up the scene and pass the spotlight to someone else.
Yeah. So I think what happens here is that he calls, and he's like, detain them, and like nobody shows up instead, right? And he's just like, whatever, and he waves off, and he kind of like storms off in a fury. And
I can say like, I got this, sir, and then I take him by the arm, and then
perfect.
take him,
Perfect.
and
Yeah.
I take this opportunity to go towards the ziggurat with the information that I have to mimic him. Which one, Ed or Bruce?
I think this was Ed.
I think
Yeah.
Ed was what I was aiming for, but whatever
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think is
Yeah.
more appropriate.
Perfect.
So while I walk towards the ziggurat through the backstage, I begin my transformation. Like my clothes, it's like change and shift. My face adapts, like partially a hologram and partially physically. Like this is a cybernetics changing the shape of my face to mimic him.
Something like a Mystique from X-Men sort of thing.
Yeah,
Love
something
it.
like that.
Love it. And I think that since now the party is reunited, or at least Skills only has 1 drone there, but Skills, maybe we can say that you're like kind of busted ass at the ziggurat too at this point.
I mean, I think Skills has been near the ziggurat the entire time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Perfect. So I think this is a good place to take our second break.
Sounds great.
And when we reconvene, yeah.
We've been playing CBR+PNK. You can go check it out at ttrpg.link /CBRPNKKS. Like Cyberpunk KS. It's also linked down in the description below. If you haven't got to check it out yet, please do. It's live right now. We are playing with Ray and Emmanuel, who are 2 of the creators who are we're putting it out. One is the author, the other is the publisher, and we are super excited to come back and play a little bit more in Wonderland right after this. And we are live again here on Plus One EXP. After a little break, we talked about during our break everything from how you do good faction play, the complexity versus narrative realities of Forged in the Dark systems, and why Dot is going to be such an essential character as things and Shift as things start to go wrong, and the two smarty McTalkies are worthless, and the punchy McSneakies become far more important. And so, with that said, I'm going to hand everything back over to Ray.
Awesome. So, recap of our current situation. Dot is outside the ziggurat battling Harmony. So I have set up a 5-track for Harmony to deal with that threat. There's also another active track on, and that is the Shiva's back track, which is at 5 out of 12. And remember that each time that has been ticked, it seems that Shiva is replicating itself into all of the connected networks and nodes at this rave, and things are going south. People's synapses are blowing out. Skill sees that Shiva is just everywhere at this point, and surely that cannot be a good thing. Marcos is with Shift. Currently, Shift is disguised as a guard, security guard, and they are going towards the ziggurat as well, which is where we find everybody. And I'm going to put the spotlight first on Dot, who is still dealing with Harmony, the jilted ex who is hunting her because she has not returned her gorilla electric arms. Harmony has one of her arms that's just completely a blade, and that she is attempting to swipe down Dot with. Dot, what would you like to do here?
Well, if by dealing with you mean running away, then yes.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna. So Harmony is justified in trying to kick my ass, but I don't want to fight her. So I'm gonna just be booking it toward the ziggurat, hoping to just avoid the whole situation. Yes.
And I was just I forgot that Shift is actually Ed Paschal, the owner of the curator of Wonderland, not the security guard anymore. And sorry, back to you, Dot. So you're going to, I'm sorry,
run as fast as I can toward the ziggurat and hope I can lose Harmony.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So let's build a roll for that, see what happens from there.
You say Run is playing in the background.
So I'm thinking I can justify aggression for this by just kind of shoving my way through the crowd.
Agreed. Although there's not much of a crowd, because remember, it's just a bunch of mercs that are over here in the ziggurat guarding it. Yeah.
Same difference.
I'm stronger than they are.
That's what I'm saying.
In that case, I don't know what approach would be appropriate for just booking it as hard as you can.
Yeah, I think aggression would be good. I would allow that. And then as far as your skills, though, let's see. Is there reflexes, and I guess it would be reflexes. I don't think there's a separate
endurance.
Yeah,
endurance. Okay, yeah, no, endurance. Endurance makes sense to me. That makes more sense to me.
Yeah. So I have. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say your threat is 4 here, and your effect is 2 standard.
Okay. So I have 2 aggression and 1 endurance. So I got 3 dice. And that's 2 6s.
2 6s. That is a critical success. A critical success in this game means that you succeed and gain an extra benefit, most likely increased effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that at this point then, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can mostly escape from Harmony. You can definitely get away into the ziggurat from her, but she'll still, since she still has 1 tick left, if I tick 4 out of the 5, she'll still be kind of lurking around, so she still might have that possibility of coming back.
Honestly, avoiding the problems is probably why we broke up in the first place.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So, Dot, you make your way, you dash around as she's chasing you, swinging at you wildly. Maybe as you're running, she takes out maybe her sidearm. She starts taking pops. She's like, pew, pew. You just see it sparkling. You just, and you go in. And you go inside the ziggurat, and it just don't make any sense to you. It's, well, not quite exactly. You know that there's computers there, right? You know that these are electronic devices of some sort, but you're not seeing the same things that Skill's seeing. You're not seeing the electronic visage of Shiva, because how could you? You're just seeing the hardware straight up that's there. And what's more, it's cold. It's shivering cold. It is like about 20 degrees Fahrenheit in here. You can see your breath there. It's everything is just seems to be refrigerated, and there's a big humming sound, just a coming out from the entire thing. But welcome to the Ziggurat server room. And with that, I'm gonna shift back the attention to Skills. Skills, last we left you, you were staring down the electronic visage of Shiva, who seemed to be duplicating itself and pushing itself out into the rest of the networked area of Wonder. What would you like to do here?
I think for Skills, this is an intrusive program that's hurting people. The fact that from a player standpoint, this is probably a semi-sentient entity doesn't even occur to Skills. So Skills just is gonna kind of start looking to partition off this thing's access from the rest of the program, from the rest of this system, so that it can start to so that he can start to like break down its code and neutralize the program. So the first thing is just reducing system access. So I want to essentially start bringing up a firewall like around this thing. And if we're living fully in like cyberpunk weird, what does this look like code land, since I see a person in front of me, like what it looks like is a bunch of like code going in, but I think the actual physical effect is like these turtle shell shaped barriers like erupting out of the ground around this program, like the hexes like on a turtle's back. I'm starting to like pop up around the program is what I'm trying to do. Let's see.
I'm going to say right off the bat that you're going to start with effect 1. That's going to be very, very difficult given how much that Shiva has already begun propagating itself everywhere, and the threat is going to be 4. It's Shiva's unaware of your presence as of yet, but once it is, look out.
So I'd like to petition that, since I've taken my time to both to work my way into and map the system, I want to argue for at least effect 2.
Okay, I will allow it. I'm a softie. I'm such a softie.
No, I 100% love that this thing is fully integrated, but also that I have like taken some time to explore the system, only because I've established that narratively. Do I think it's worthwhile? This is one of the things Jerry and I were specifically talking about during the break, also too. So I'm gonna say I think this is smartness. This is probably coding, I would say also too. I think I'm going to actually push myself for extra effect again also too, if I can. So I'll mark off the stress for that. We've got a dice pool of 4, and I'm looking for my dice roller. There we go. Roll. I got a 6.
6, excellent. So I have started a separate track. This, instead of Shiva's back, this is just Shiva straight up. So this is kind of like, I guess you could interpret it as like the HB pool, so to speak. So this is a nested track, which means that it's also a 12 track, but it's broken down into 4, 4, 4, which means that once one of those 4 fills, something else is going to happen. Like, cool. Kind of like the boss fight shift stage is going to happen. But on a 6, the 3 of those boxes fill. So describe to me what that looks like.
Yeah, so we, like I said, we see kind of this this turtle shell like pattern like erupt up out of the ground, and I think we actually see like whether or not they notice, that's up to the GM, but I think like we see this clone and we see like Shiva point and it like try to erupt off in a certain direction, and it just like hits this net. And we actually kind of watch it like smash against it and then like dissolve into like a scaled like particle pattern as it like bounces off of it and is just kind of destroyed. Whether or not she even notices that or not, right? Yeah, like
I think I'm gonna say that Shiva does notice that, but it doesn't notice you just yet. So it looks at it and is like, "What?" You hear kind of echoey voice, "What? What's happening? What is this?" And it kind of reaches out and like touches the part of the barrier yet. And keep in mind that it's not, that first track isn't completely filled yet, so you haven't quite stopped it from duplicating itself. So you see the next one that it makes, the next kind of clone, it like instead of going in that direction, it kind of feels against the wall until there's an opening.
100%. This is not a full enclosure yet.
Yep. So I'm gonna keep spotlight on you, Skills. Would you like to follow up here before we shift over back to shift and?
Yeah. Let's let's finish off this barrier. So I'm gonna keep on going. I think same build out as last time. What does it do if I use an item? Is that a thing mechanically or just narratively? I'm trying to remember.
It gives you fictional permission, so like you're able.
That's what I thought. I remembered them as
go.
just being narrative positioning, but I couldn't remember for sure. Yeah, then I think same exact loadout on the dice as I roll again, and 5 is my best dice this time.
Okay, so you have successfully blocked out. So a couple of things are happening here narratively. So Shiva, that first 4 track has filled. However, you have successfully stopped the Shiva's backtrack at 6 out of 12. So it achieved about half of its goal. And as a complication, Shiva has now noticed your presence. So what that looks like fictionally is it sends out that another one of its clones, and it fills it, touches around the perimeter, right? But it can't escape now. So there's just 2 kind of these visages, and it kind of looks around and it notices your presence in this virtual space. Sure. And sort of looks at you and is like, "You, what are you doing?" And I think that it's gonna sort of look around and like kind of think in the virtual space and outside in the real world. At 6 out of 12, what the rest of you see. And we're going to shift the attention back to Shift and Marcos too. Marcos and Shift dressed as Ed. As you approach it, Matip hops down from the ziggurat, the one that the Borg that tried to get the drone earlier, and looks at you, Shift, and is like, "Sir, I don't know what's happening, but there's shit's going down everywhere." What would you like me to do?
Oh, how clever of you. Don't you see people fucking dying out there? Well, we need a technician inside, like right now. See that guy over there? And I want to put 2 skills.
Mm-hmm.
Let him in.
Of course, sir. And I think that given the disguise, he is going to do that. So he's gonna step away, or he, you know what he's gonna do is he's gonna be like, is he going to come in? Because I think what you see with Skills is just that he's got the visor going right, and he's like kind of knee deep in the yeah, exactly.
Don't you see he's already working? Help him. He needs to jack in.
Yeah, of course. He goes and he looks at Shift, and he picks Shift up and is like, inside. You want me to carry him inside?
Right now! Go!
So he brings him inside, and I'm gonna say all of that happens, but I do want to have you make a roll shift just
Yeah.
to see, like I guess at a certain point, he might get suspicious, right, or figure something out. So let's see if that happens here with this sort of persuasion-like roll.
So would that be aggression, maybe, as an approach?
Oh yeah, sounds like it.
Influence and aggression.
Okay.
I'm going to spend 1 stress to hold my form, but this augmentation is a prototype, so it's glitchy. Now I will have to roll a glitch die. It's going to be this black one.
Okay, and I'm going to say that the threat is 2 standard, but the effect is 4, given all of your.
I would love to assist by spending a stress and just being absolutely hysterical. People are dying.
Awesome.
Since
So I have 3 die. One of them is glitchy.
Emmanuel, since this is our
I
glitch die,
I fail. Not only that, but my glitch die is a 5, which in this new version of the system, it's still a glitch, but I can resist.
Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. So the glitch die. So when a PC adds a die from a gear approach action marked as glitchy, if they roll on a 4 or 5, regardless of the outcome, the PC suffers a consequence, and that cannot be resisted. So I want to say narratively, you managed to carry skills in, but the moment maybe you're yelling at him again, right? Like he's about to jack him in, and then you're yelling at him, and your visage is like, "What are you doing?"
Shit, yeah.
It just kind of disintegrates in front of him. So that's the obvious consequence from the glitch die. And I think that the second consequence is going to be at skills, because since he has skills in his arm, so he's going to look at you and see that you're not Ed, and he's going to look at skills, and he's going to rip the cyber deck off from skills and try to like unplug him forcibly, which I think will translate, since you're kind of jacked in so much skills, we're going to say that is going to be a level 2 harm to like your synapses.
Can I try to use protect to take this consequence in his place?
Yes. You absolutely can do that.
What I think I'm going to do is, since this is like a big guy and I'm small, I will throw a knife, a small tactile knife, into his arm to at least delay and give time to skills to react better.
Yeah, sounds good. So protect. Let's see.
Yeah.
Take the consequences for a teammate's failed action. Okay, so that happens. So you throw that knife, and it pings harmlessly off of this Borg's body, right? The 6-pack cybernetic body goes ping. But it pisses him off. He looks at it and he goes.
So I'm going to roll like resist with aggression, which is.
You didn't even let me finish with the consequences. You don't want to hear what happens to you.
What happens?
Like whatever happens, I want to resist it.
Oh my god, I'm gonna die.
So I think he's gonna. So the consequence that you are resisting, he's gonna go and, yeah, he's a pretty high level threat, right? He's a full Borg, so he's gonna sort of like V-dash towards you, and just I think what he's gonna do is just try to literally like grab your shoulders and kind of rip both arms out of your sockets, like just and kind of like rip you in
Okay.
half here.
Well, all
So let's say that is let's say one arm. Let's say that you could probably get away, but like you could probably like try and rip one of your arms out of the socket. So that would be the level, probably a level 2 harm, let's say. Yeah. But you're resisting it, so let's see what happens
Yeah.
on the resist.
How do I resist this? Oh my god.
I'm also setting a new track for Matip, and I'm going to set him at a nested 6 track. So 3 and 3.
Okay, I'm gonna say that I will not resist as a roll, but I'm marking off armor.
Okay, yeah.
So this is my last gear slot. And what happens is that I can use my shifting clothes to he picks the clothes instead of picking my arm, maybe.
Yeah.
Now I am
Sound
without my disguise.
excellent. No trench coat left for shift. And with that, the situation. So, right, Marcos, I'm going to describe to you what happens. This is the result of the nested Shiva clock filling, the first 4. So, as you're going into the ziggurat and you're being hysterical, you notice, first of all, that outside, like, people are straight up running now, right? It's turning into full-blown chaos. Like, people are realizing something bad is happening here. People's synapses getting blown off. But those drones that you saw earlier, you see them forming around, but instead of a bunny, there's now glowing red, and they form into sort of that shape, that general shape of Shiva's head with the long flowing locks. And it just sort of starts like descending towards the ziggurat as well. Just
cool. We got an Andros situation on our hands.
Andros, indeed.
Deep
Spotlight
cut.
to you, Marcus.
Yeah. I would, call me whatever you want at this point. I'll be whatever you want me to be. But I would love to actually. So let me understand something about the resistance armor situation. There was a level 2 harm on the table. To my understanding, resistance or armor reduces the effectiveness of something by 1 or negates it. Is it that this armor is negating the level 2 harm totally, or is there still a level 1 harm on the table?
Good point. Let me double check with that. So
I think that's up to you, Ray.
Yeah, I think that narratively, because it's the trench coat, it makes sense based off of what I said with the pulling of the shoulder. So I'm going to say it can be negated entirely. But also keep in mind that now I've established Matip as like, this is a Borg that can literally rip you in half. So that's kind of like what you're dealing with. So in terms of like future consequences, it might get ugly with.
No, sure. So I would actually love to leave that additional harm on the table, and I would like the chain protect shift, and I would also like to spend an armor to reduce that harm to 0. But I say some sort of like, I'm going from a hysterical, because this is leading up to get ready, Sammy. I am sort of like giving this cool anime over the shoulder pose. My 6 shirt is like billowing in the wind, and I light a cigarette. And now you may be looking at me. How does your jaw feel? And like at that moment, there's a arcane knee from across the screen. Just Dot comes coming in and knocks. I'm sorry, his name is Makari. Matip. Just knocks Matip flat on his ass, and my armor brings Dot into the scene, all ready for like a Yang from Ruby, sort of like with the gorilla arms clicked on.
And now he pronounces his name Matif.
Love it. Okay, so let me make sure I'm following mechanically. That means that, so we're saying that that was on the table, that level 1 harm, but you're protecting and using your armor to set up dot slash what was it, like 420 blazes 69.
Rude but hilarious all at the same time.
Blazar 69. So Dot is back in the scene. Gorilla arms at the ready. And Dot, take it away. What are you going to do here?
Ideally, use aggression and close combat to knock his block off.
Okay.
Clap him.
So let's do this. Let's have you roll first, and based off of the roll, I want you to describe what happens. And then if I don't feel like the consequences are enough, I'll add on to that.
Okay. So I do have expertise in close combat, so that means I can take out 1 dice and use that to increase the effect, right?
Right. So let me set that first. So threat, we've established that it's a threat of 4. And then the effect, because you have the gorilla arms, I would normally say like effect 1 because of the Borgness of this fella, but that goes back to effect 2 just with that equipment. So you can push that up to effect 3 if you would like. Great effect.
I would love to.
Cool.
So that's 5 ticks on my character sheet, but if I take out 1, that brings it down to 4, or would that just bring it down to 3?
It would bring it down to 4. So 4 dice for the greater effect.
Okay.
5, yeah.
Awesome. Ooh, that's a 5.
That's a 5. So that's a mixed success. So tell me what happens. And I'm gonna say, tell me what happens, and I will add on the consequence as well.
All right. So Dot just running out, flying leap, just clocks him right in the jaw.
And keep in mind, electronic, like pneumatic gorilla arms, right? So you got the cybernetics, and it's electrically cackling. So it clocks him in the jaw. That's gonna tick off the 3 of the nested clock. So he is down to 3 on the track. So he takes it, right, and you just see that like part of his jaw was cybernetic, and that part is all sort of like gone, and you can see the guts and innards, and you also see like parts of the flesh that was kind of in it, right? So now he's just got this weird like Joker / Terminator kind of grimace that he's looking at you. And for your consequence, what he's going to do is, like, as you raise up for another blow, he's gonna grab your gorilla arms, one of them, and he's just gonna crush it with his arms, and he's just gonna kind of turn it into like a loot in the can. Now keep in mind that you can also resist this if you don't want this to happen, but that's gonna be a level 2 harm otherwise.
I would love to try to resist this.
Okay, cool. So in order to resist, you choose an approach, and then you roll those number of dice, basically. And then it's a straight up look at the result, and that's how much stress it'll cost.
I would like to aggression close combat again and just kind of try to break out of the hold.
Yeah, so it would be aggression. It's just your approach for the resist. So 2 dice for the aggression resist.
Ooh, 6.
6. Solid. Mark 1 stress. And tell me what that looks like too.
All right, mark 1 stress. So basically with her arm held up in the air like that, she just kind of does kind of like a pull-up and kind of flips her legs over the arm, and then uses her free arm to like break his thumb backwards and free her arm.
Very, very nice. And I'm gonna say, because those three ticks have gone from Atib, and it's the second of the nested 3, as a response, like what he's gonna do, he's gonna look at all of you now, right? And I think everyone's here at this point, right? Skills is still like jacked in.
Yeah, I've
shifted.
I have no idea. There's been a couple times where like my visor started going fuzzy a little bit, but I have no idea what's happening. Like someone moved me, I know that, but other than that, I'm totally unaware.
Yeah, and so he's gonna look, and he's gonna like lift up from his from his armpits, and it's gonna drop down, and it's gonna be like 2 kind of like Gatling like 50 cows, right? And he's just gonna start going like and start spraying the area. So I'm gonna give everyone a chance to, I believe I'm gonna give you guys a chance to react here and see what happens. So keep in mind, skills is pretty vulnerable.
Actually,
and
so my two augments are TRTL HD, which could be read as Turtle HD or Turtle Head, one of the two, and the other one is TRTL SHL or Turtle Shell. So I have a threat matrix predictor. So whenever this program predicts that I'm about to be hit, it forces my body to respond. I also have a shell-like structure that will pop up around me.
Wow.
And it is entirely for this situation.
This guy taking the turtle theme to the extreme. Very nice. Okay, so let's see. Mechanically, what are we? How do we do this here? So I think that maybe we can play it as armor here.
Yeah,
Let's
I
see.
think basically one lets me essentially respond even though my character isn't paying attention narratively. And the other one is if that doesn't work out right, then I have a narrative reason to enact armor.
Okay, so let's do the turtle head threat matrix predictor, and we'll do it as a roll too, a reactionary roll, and then we'll see what happens based off of that. So yeah, why don't you put together that pool?
I built it for such a specific situation. I was like, this will never come up.
Never did I think he would have machine guns coming out of his armpit.
This feels like a smart thing I did. And I think that's it. I don't think there's any other. I don't think I have any skill that would benefit from it. Yeah. So 2.
Okay, let's see what happens. Here.
Do we have any? Am I just what am I rolling again? Rolling.
So I guess I would say like as a reactionary roll, and this is kind of like outside the purview of the rules.
Right.
So like rather than so I think the armor is going to protect you no matter what. But if you roll well, I'll give you a chance to tick off Matif and narratively like tell me what that looks like.
I did roll a 6 and a 4.
A 6 and a 4. Okay, so 6 and a 4. And I'm going to say the effect though is going to be limited to begin with. So I'm going to say it's going to be one tick of that. So how do you respond, and how do you kind of like counter back against Matif from that?
I think it's like I think what we see is actually like my body kind of become mildly rigid, and I do a flip. Like I'm totally unaware. Like this is like y'all have watched me limp around for the last however many years, and this is not the first time y'all have seen this. This is the first time the audience has seen this character who they've watched limped around the entire movie. All of a sudden, like do a front flip and like plant a foot on this guy's forehead and like kick down. Now, I'm a small little turtley creature, and they are a big piece of metal. So how much that actually does, who knows? But it is very surprising.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I think to see this very polished reaction happen from a body that is not intended to do this.
That reminds me of those old Six Flag commercials, you know, with the
little old man. Yeah.
Yeah, the little old man.
100% creepy little old man Six Flag commercial from back in the day.
Very nice. And let's put the focus on Shift. How are you reacting here to the machine gun spread?
I am just going to jump out of their way.
Okay.
Just straight up resist.
Okay.
Aggression, maybe?
Sounds good.
All right. 4. So that's I take 2 stress, right?
Yes. Do you have any points in aggression? You have 0 points in aggression, though.
Yeah, I took the
Okay.
lowest.
Got it. Okay, 2D. Yep. So you jump out of the way, and let's go to Marco. What's Marco less than 30?
Yeah, I would. Here comes the less than 30, everybody. One, I would like to maybe do your favorite anime tag teams with Dot here, and I'm going to use my augment, which is Ingium engine leg enhancements. I'm a courier by day, and that's why they call me less than 30. Because if it's not to you in 30 minutes or less, it's game over. So right here, I can kick those on for 30 seconds, and I would love to do something with Dot where we each take out like a machine gun on each side if we can in our evasion. If that's cool with Sammy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm kicking on my augments. I'm going to like use my breakneck speed to enhance my strength in some way to break, because I'm not a punch guy. I'm a love you guy, but right now I need to be a punch guy. So I'd love to rip a machine gun off whatever role we think that makes sense here. I definitely think it's aggression, which I have 0 dice in. But I would love to also do reflexes here and add 1 there. Or if it sounds more applicable to do a... are there group actions in this game, in this version?
I don't see them. I think those were, correct me if I'm wrong, Emmanuel, but I do. How about we play it as a setup action to set up Dot, and that way you can give Dot the edge there and go from there.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. I'll probably still do the same things because this is not empathy, nor smartness, nor stealthy. So I'm going to go with aggression, which is 0 dice. You know what? I might actually give myself a little bit of a spin here and say endurance, just to like keep the engine going and do the kick at the high speeds rather than reflexes. So at least giving me 2 dice here. Does that sound chill, Ray?
Yep. Sounds chill.
Cool. What is there any threat or anything I should know about this for this roll?
Yes, the threat is 4, and the effect we're staying at 2.
Sure. Cool. 6. Is there a threat higher than 4? Is there 5 threat?
I think it's not bounded. It's I don't think there's an upper, like it just says 2 is the standard. So
Heard. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's push the envelope further. I'm looking to die here. So let's give a 5 threat in exchange for a higher effect.
I love it. 5 and 3.
Yep.
I
Clog the
will-
Gatling gun with your meat.
Hey, if nothing else,
Charm those bullets out of the air.
I'm going to spend another stress to push myself, to give myself an extra dice, which will be 3. And this is all just for a setup, everyone at home. Just so you know, I'm not doing the magic. I'm relying on Dot to do the magic. So,
I like how the apprentice has the assistant has become the magician has become the assistant.
It's all about that narrative, baby. We got
all about the setup.
Yeah, we got it.
after this, I'll see you all on the other side. Thank you. That'll be 4 mixed success.
Okay, mixed success. So the success is that you do successfully hit it, but the consequence is because it's a threat of 5. I'm gonna say that when you take harm and no slides left to fill, yeah. So I'm gonna say that since Marco wanted to die, Marco, how does this? Okay, so I'm gonna give you the spotlight here. And I guess you could still resist this if you want, but how does this leave? How do you set up Dot, but leave? How does it sort of end you or leave you in a position where you're permanently crippled?
So I think that I think we get to one of the machine guns, we kick it. It's maybe not completely off, maybe it's sort of like swiveling on a hinge and like just rapidly firing in all sorts of makeshift directions. And I think that the stop of momentum is long enough for him to grab me and like basically maybe like crush my windpipe or something like that.
Yeah. Dolph Lundgren style. Now you die.
Yeah. So if this is a threat 5 harm, and if I'm equating that to what I know about position effect in other Forge in the Dark games, it sounds like I'm going to take what is the equivalent of like a level 4 harm here. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I would love to spend another, because I took a normal load, so I'm going to spend for heavy armor,
Okay.
reducing it to 4, and then I'm going to resist it with empathy by remembering a sad moment in my life, if that sounds applicable, and say I have to do it for them. And I would love to resist on top of that.
Okay. Hit me with it. So I think that'll go down to a level 2, let's say, if everything.
I'm fine with level 3. I'm happy to be like out on the
3?
floor, just not dead, because maybe I can like limp away at the end of this session.
Yeah, have it affect your epilogue.
We can get you a vocoder implanted later.
Yeah. So that is going to be 5. So I take 1 stress here.
Cool.
Excuse me, just under overloaded. So yeah, dangling machine gun catches me, windpipe crush, tosses me aside. I am not moving. Dot.
As you hit the ground, Jeremy, what sad memory do you remember?
Sure. So rolling on the empathy for the resistance. The grandfather story is real. It's absolutely real. He raised me by himself. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't a magician's story. I love my grandpa, and he's dead. But he said, "Be the person you want to be, and don't give up on people and pass out." Take that away home, kids.
Dot, the spotlight is yours.
Yeah, so I suppose with the other machine gun taken care of, the other side is up to me. So I'm going to try to kind of like skid on the ground underneath it, reach up, and it's a Gatling gun, so there's several barrels, right? It's going to grab 2 and try to stop it from spinning, and then kind of rip it down and break the servos in his armpits.
Yeah.
Which would be aggression, close combat, I believe. I just dropped a dice.
All I can think about in this moment is like that's simultaneously like getting your armpit hairs all ripped out and having a fist shoved through your armpit into your still beating heart at the same time. It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
It's not going to be good.
Great things all around.
Horrifying. So we're still technically resisting the shot, right? So that's just
no. So you're set up. So this is actually just a straight up action for you. We dealt with shift. We dealt with everybody's reactions, including yours. Now it's like you're free to make a move against.
Sweet. So I assume ripping the machine gun off would be an aggression and a close combat.
Yep, sounds good. Threat 4.
Some might say empathy, but whatever.
That's a double 6.
Double 6. All right. So you take Matip out, and what does that look like?
Well, I think it looks like her reaching up and ripping the minigun down and off its servos, but it still has enough juice to keep firing. And she kind of aims it up at, kind of spins it around, and aims it up into Matip's chassis. And he just rips a hole in himself with his own minigun.
Oh, and it's a combination of metal and like whatever flesh that he has left just spatters, and he just goes just kind of spatters to the ground. And with 10, nice. And with that, we're gonna go back into the virtual world with skills and the 2 copies for Eva now.
While we're doing skills scene, I gotta run to the bathroom real quick.
Okay.
So I'll be back in 2.
I will
just keep going without me.
I also write down 10 on a piece of paper and hold it up to the screen.
Me too. Hold on. Yeah.
There are 10 types of people who understand binary.
All right, skills. Shiva is looking at you in the virtual world, both of them, and this is the part where he begins monologuing. So he says to you, "You don't understand. You don't know what this feels like." And he kind of reaches out and he like swipes through the copy of himself, and you see his hand, the code kind of just goes. It's like, I'm there, but I feel nothing. I feel like I can remember, but I'm dying every single moment. Do you know what that feels like? Do you know the pain?
No. Like, I'm just like typing on my deck. I mean, like, I'm still alive. I have zero concept of what that's like. I mean, I don't say that to be rude or cruel or anything else like that. I'm sure it's very hard for you, but I have zero way in which I can conceptually understand what you're talking about.
You will. And you see all of a sudden that the code kind of just erupts. There's just a font of it exploding into your UI or UX, and you just see lines and lines and lines and lines of this red code. So I'm going to do, I'm going to set up, let's see, I'm going to use one of these clocks, one of these segments as Shiva, this 4 clock. I'm going to do like a racing clock scenario, basically. So we'll kind of go back and forth, and you do your actions, and I'll fill based off that. I'll tell you what happens, and so on and so forth, and then we'll kind of go back and forth. Yeah. So tell me what the move is, Skills.
So it's trying to basically flood me with coded experience of its own demise.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I think in that situation, I'm going to start taking in like, I'm going to start taking in all this code. And really, like, we see a little bit of like super braining here for Skills. Like, Skills is intensely fascinated by the coded experiences of the reality of someone's death and what flits before their eyes in their last moments. And so I think I'm literally going to start pulling at the different kind of threads that I see representing the strong emotions of despair. I'm going to let the rest of the code just kind of like blast into me. And I am going to essentially just try to redirect the most despairing parts of the code back at this thing. Right. So essentially, like, I'm letting it all hit me. I am in like fast time analyzing it and pulling out the different emotional threads that I associate with its despair, and then only like pushing those parts back at this thing, and trying to create a feedback loop for Shiva.
Yep. Threat 4, effect 2, and let's see what happens. Let's see what you get to see.
Cool. I'm smartness. I'm going to go with analysis on this because it's not really straight coding. It's more about synthesizing the information and returning certain parts of it. It's not security system, so I can't use my expertise on it. And I think that's it. So I've got rolling 4 dice. I'm gonna push myself for greater effect. Okay. I will also push myself to remember my own most despairing memories, and loop that into the code and push it back at him. So I'll just combine my own despair with its despair, and push that back for greater effect. And so it's gonna be 4 dice.
Skills just remembers my grandfather's story.
Yeah, I'm also his grandson.
That's right. Grandpa was pretty cool.
Grandpa was pretty cool. No, so I did roll 6. on this. I think what we see is like, so we see this all happening all of a sudden, like, and it looks like Shiva's being very effective. I think initially, like, it is not a pleasant situation. I am momentarily overwhelmed. This is much longer in cyberspace than it is in the real world, right? And then all of a sudden, like, I start pulling together these threads and start, like, you see me like we see like the shell code kind of like pop up around me, and all of a sudden, like, I'm not hitting it, and then like the shell kind of concaves in and starts welling up with kind of these despair threads that I'm pulling in. I all of a sudden think back to the crew I was with before this one on the last job that we ran together, and what we see is just like me looking up flames crumbling around me. Oh no, this is it. And we do see Marco's grandfather, who was my mentor, like dead-eyed in front of me on the ground as like old-fashioned paper money rains from the sky burning. My leg is searing with pain. This is the moment where I got my limp. And I am sure that we are going to die, that this is it, as all of a sudden, like, bright lights start to flash in the sky above me, and I black out. And then I snap back into this moment, and I shoot all the sad parts back at Shiva.
Yeah. And what did you roll?
I rolled a 6.
Oh, you rolled a 6. Okay, yeah. So
I rolled first to see how I wanted to narrate that. That scene. And so
that fills in, right? And you see basically him holding himself in his hands, like, and then parts of the second clone just kind of dissipate, right? Just flood away. Mechanically, what that does is fill up the second of the 3 nested tracks. So you see him breaking apart in the virtual world. And I'm going to say that you managed to sort of destroy, like, it. He begins fading away completely, right? And then all of a sudden, you're left in an empty room where it's just you in the virtual world with the shell, the firewall, but it's empty all of a sudden. But outside, you hear kind of the drones. And maybe does anybody want to, like, go outside, see what's going on here? Shift, I think you're up. And okay.
Yeah, I would like to.
So Shift, as you go outside, you see the drone face of Shiva kind of like look down, but then it begins to very slowly kind of disperse, and the drones just sort of like start floating out, and the shape just gets elongated, more and more elongated. Are you going to do anything about that?
Do I see someone else coming in, like other security or other medics?
I think what's happening around you is just chaos, right? So there's just bodies on the floor at this point. There's like maybe like pits of fire. There's just some of the equipment is kind of like red, right? And has this kind of ominous glow to it. And it's just sort of like this chaos and destruction all around you. So nobody's really running in at this point. It seems to be every person for themselves.
I just yell back to Skills, like, it's working, but it's not done yet.
I hear that coming far slower than it should.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So
Skills at this moment, if you do check, I guess, like, as you check back into the network at large, everything is still like connected, but you're noticing that they're starting to log off, right? They're just starting to like scatter all of these various copies of Shiva, basically. So like parts of them are just sort of like disappearing off the network. So you're not really sure what's going on, but that's what you sense based off of, you know, your technical abilities.
That seems non-ideal. I want to, in the empty space, now that I'm unobstructed, I'm gonna pull back up most of the code that was just shot at me, and I want to create a shell version of Shiva, essentially like an empty digital code body. And specifically, I want to create it as bait for these programs that I think are probably hiding, essentially to get them to try to come back into this space so I can deal with them all.
Love it.
I think that's what I want to do.
Makes sense to me.
So yeah, so I do that. That's probably I'm actually going to say this is probably empathy. Because there are other approaches I could take with this. Probably empathy coding would be my assumption here on my approach plus my skill.
Yeah. And if it's okay with everybody, we'll make this the last roll, and then once this happens, we can kind of go to epilogues and kind of aftermath of what happens.
Cool. In that case, I'm gonna push myself also too, since we got last roll also too here. I got a 6.
Nice. Okay. So 6 is enough to fill the boxes. So empathy, right? So what is like this is a shell program, right? And it's made of the despair, but what about it makes it so appealing to these other programs that are trying to disperse, that they feel like they need to be drawn back in at this moment?
I think the concept actually is almost the ploy is, even though this is empathy, like it is a little bit, there is definitely a level of deceit in here. Like the ploy is like the coding that I leave out is basically like a breadcrumb trail of like very clearly like that Shiva Prime has died, and so now there's a power vacuum. So this is to all the copies their chance to rush back in and become, for lack of a better term, Shiva Prime at this point in time. And so it literally is do you want to be a small program flitting on the edges of society waiting to come back, or do you want the power that Shiva just abandoned, or that was just destroyed for Shiva for your own, to lure them all back in? And then in that confusion, I don't actually think I want to kill them. I'll spend I've got a load still, so I'll spend a load for a super high capacity like hard drive. I'm gonna Ghostbuster trap these digital ghosts and download them all. So I'm not killing them. I am trapping them.
Yep. So I think that happens virtually, and this is probably what Skill sees, right? It's like the flood of them kind of coming back in, like a like you said, like kind of a Ghostbuster trap with the light and the kind of shooting in. But what everybody else sees is just like Skills kind of just pull up, like it's like, all right, got it, mission complete, right? Like I did it. We got it. We
thumb drive found. Good
yeah,
job,
thumb
team.
drive found. Yeah, and with that, let's fade to black. And when we come back into it, we're gonna mechanically do the epilogue now. So this is what it says. When the run's objective is concluded successfully and not, and there are no more immediate threats, wrap the current scene up. Players take turns describing what happens after the run, specifically the outcome of their angle. How successful they manage to resolve their angle is determined by an angle roll. On their turn, player gathers their dice. 3 dice if you achieve the main objective, which yes, you did. Minus a dice if you overlooked or failed to comply with one or more critical requirements: time, strange, quality, integrity. I'm going to say you definitely get -1 dice for collateral here for what's going on. So 2 dice standard, and then -1 dice if you have a marked debt. I'm not sure if any of your characters have a marked debt. And then we'll go around. So 2 dice, and based off of what it goes. So 6 is you got out of it mostly intact. Give a glance of what's important. 4 to 5, you did it but left an open thread. And 1 and 3, things don't go as planned, and you resolve your angle at a huge cost. Something, someone you love, your ideals, yourself, etc., etc.
So say them for me one more time.
So 6, you get out of it mostly intact, give a glimpse of your what's next. So like a pretty good scene. 4 to 5, you did it but left an open thread. What was it? Maybe like a cliffhanger type of deal. And 1 to 3, things go bad. Something, someone you love, your ideals. It comes at a cost. Basically, there's a huge cost for your character.
Cool.
So who would like to go first? Here. All right, here we go. Marco, less than 30.
That's gonna be a 5. You did it, but left an open thread. What was it? And is this individual or for the run overall?
Individual, I believe. Although if you would like to add an open thread to the run, I'm open. I mean, yeah, to add to the sort of cliffhanger narrative, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I think it's just a shadowy conversation of someone talking out,
The prototype did better than we thought it was going to. I guess we'll have to see what the next stages of the plan will look like.
I agree. But for Marco, I'm just in a cast in the hospital. Typing out messages to cute male nurses. And yeah.
Very nice. Shift, you want to go next?
Let's go. Nice. A failure. A 2. Let's see. His angle was to get out. So he was trying to get off planet to a colony or something. Just to leave behind this whole planet. Let's see. I think that he has to leave behind the little bit of identity he has about himself. Like he has to create this new persona. So you see him entering a spaceport with a duffel bag on his shoulders. He's wearing casual clothes, and he just get on board a spaceship, and you see like a sign like saying, "Welcome to going off to Ganymede. Your new life awaits." And his face doesn't shift. Like the plates are more or less fixed, but he has like this face of someone that he doesn't know yet. He's still going to meet this new person he is now. He had to leave behind everything and start literally from scratch. And that's it.
And let's go to Dot.
All right, so 2 dice. 4.
Mixed success.
Yeah. So if I recall, Harmony still had 1 tick box left.
Yes, indeed.
Yep. So I'm thinking Big O paid us out kind of by way of dead drop. So Dot checks the credit chip. She gets all the credits, and as she's looking down at her hand at the credit chips, Mantis Blade just kind of erupts from her inside from the back.
Oh.
And then I think fading out there is good enough.
All right. And skills.
Jeremy, what's your grandpa's name? What's Marco's
Mathis.
grandpa's name? What'd you say it was?
Mathis.
Mathis. Cool. I rolled an 8. So we see skills down like somewhere dark, right? Like we get the sense the space is lived in. We kind of pull in and we kind of pan past things to this large computer bank, like his face kind of lit by the screen as he sits down. He's like typing stuff in. And you see like him hit a line of code, and on a big screen behind him, you see like a number of like run things happen, and there's like error, success, right? And you see him like frustratedly like kind of retyping in things. It's very obvious that he's whatever it is, he's playing around with the Shiva code that he downloaded. And then you like see it zooms in and you see like him typing in like Shiva _ Matthias like beta run, like 0.96, right? And he initiates the code, and then all of a sudden we see that same face that we saw from the memory from the magic show like pop up on the screen in kind of a ghostly spectral form, and then like text scrolls out beneath it like it's been a long time, and then it fades to black.
I love that. And I think just to add on to that, it's like several months after that, we just scroll to some like punk kid, right? Scanning the web on whatever SoundCloud is or equivalent. And there's just this like release out that's called like Magic. And it just sounds eerily like one of Shiva's old songs, but new and fresh somehow. He's just sort of bopping to the beat of that as he goes about, maybe sweeping the floors of his job or something. And that's what we end on.
Awesome.
Yay.
Yay! We did it.
We didn't die.
Awesome. Well, we are going to do our reaction roll. Reaction roll is a live stream inside of a live stream. It's our chance to sit down with the creator or creators of a game in this situation and talk about the game we just played today. We are playing CBR+PNK, which is live over on Kickstarter right now. You can go to the link down in the corner of the screen or in the show notes to be able to do that. We'll also drop it in the chat in just 1 second. I had a blast playing. This is a chance for us to sit down and just share a little bit about what our experience playing was. We've got 2 of the creative team here with us. We've got Ray, who is the publisher, but was also the author of this adventure that we just played through. And we've got Emmanuel, who is with us, also who is the original creator of the game and designer of the game, as well as did the graphic design. Did you do the art for this also too? Is that or did
Yeah.
who did the? Oh my gosh, it's all so good.
Like
it's
the augmented
breathtaking.
edition, the art is by Luis Melo.
Okay.
The cover art, the original is mine. Like it's just photo montage.
Yeah.
Luis did everything besides the covers, basically. So every single element you see on the Kickstarter page. Also the renders. We had Alex do the renders, but Emmanuel put together the actual product and was just like, here, basically fold here digitally, and you'll create a mock-up. Like it's the man is crazy talented. Like he does everything.
It is all tremendously beautiful and gorgeous, and has been from the get-go. I have been super excited kind of diving through this. I can't wait to hear what everybody else thought, though. Let's start with Jeremy. Jeremy, you are a FITD you're very experienced with Forge in the Dark games. Like, I don't know what I was gonna say, but you good at the games, and I would love to hear what you thought about CBR+PNK.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for running the game, Ray. Thank you for playing with me, everyone. I really appreciate it, and thanks for letting me be like sort of a proactive player and vibing off combo scenes. So. Sports high five to everyone. As far as CBR+PNK is concerned, I love there are a couple bit of mechanical alterations that you've made for the characters that I really like that I think is missing from Blades proper. And one of those is the what did you call it? The angle in this, sort of like a drive for the characters. Because even though you in Blades proper you select a crew and that sort of like decides what style of missions you go on, that doesn't really tell you your motivations as like a character to engage with anything in the fiction. And then you know, some loose character creation things of like who owns your territory and who do you have beef with and that sort of a thing. But that never really felt tangible to me as a role player. So I really love that. The glitch, or excuse me, the angles are really cool. And I think anyone who's listening or watching to this, watching this later, I would love a drive system, like a drive or intention system for any of the Forge in the Dark games to be prevalent. Additionally, I like that when you max out on stress, the overload, I think that's a really interesting way to keep people engaged in the scene, because since there are two sort of incapacitation states or possibilities for characters, and one of them is tied to a resource, I think it's good. I think it's good that it keeps you in play longer, because I've played in situations where I'm at like level 2 harm and my stress is almost maxed out. So I don't really want to use my stress anyways. So just to have a mechanical thing that says you can keep playing, but you are not able to engage in like one of your approaches, or they're a little defunct in some way, I think is much more of a safer, what do I want to say, a safer risk reward in terms of like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to like use all of my actions or something if my stress is all maxed out, but I still know that I can help in the scene with like items or something we've already established, or maybe I can protect someone if I don't have a lot of harm on me. So I'm still useful in some way. I just become in a less operable mode, which I think is really interesting. And I like the epilogue at the end of runs. I think it's really good to have some sort of mechanized debrief of how there's closure for something, because I'm personally not a fan of like meandering campaigns that are like 50, 60 sessions long. No one really remembers why we started the journey or why we're even doing the thing that we're doing in the first place. So I love that there's sort of like a way to solidify again like why we keep playing in this current narrative that we're establishing. So overall, I really like the reduction of some mechanics. I love the additions of more personal character mechanisms in terms of like your meta fictional positioning as a player and what your investment for the character is. And kudos to the design and anything. I guess if I had a question, I would find that with any of these changes I've mentioned or any that I haven't, why did you make a new? I know that we talked off screen. You're like, my friends wanted to play Cyberpunk and I wanted to play Blades in the Dark, and so I smashed those together. But why then not just play Blades in the Dark in a Cyberpunk setting? Do you feel like it was because it was missing some of those elements that are traditional to more of a Cyberpunk genre, and why make those mechanical alterations? And that's for either of you. I guess I would kick it to Emmanuel first.
Yeah, that's basically because I wanted to make specifically for one-shots. My time is really short, as most of the player base we gather. So I wanted to make possible to just like pop up this pamphlet and like play for a few hours and resolve everything in one session. And if you can't play again anytime later, you just make new characters and do another run and etc. And we did that a lot like last year and worked really well. Some things needed some adjustments that I'm doing for this augmented edition, and that includes the angle roll at the end. because it was a little loose what you could do, what you can say about the characters, and some people need a little help just to make up something, and this angle roll also helps the cyberpunk stuff, like to solidify this lifestyle of the cyberpunk, like the things never go exactly how you want it. It's sometimes it's tragic, sometimes you lose stuff that I mean that just adds to the cyberpunk genre.
And Ray, sort of same question. I know you are working on the publishing / have made an adventure side of things, but is there anything about this version of Forge in the Dark that you like versus Blades proper, or even the SRD to stand up for that matter?
Yeah, so I ran CBR+PNK for the first time with a bunch of fellow developers in our little playtesting group, and what I love specifically about it, I was doing a lot of experimentation with stripping down Forge in the Dark games myself and trying to make it as small as possible. But I love how constrained it was to just, basically the 2 pamphlets, right? And how Emmanuel was able to condense all of it down there. And also specifically, like, I think that it's a very kind of experiential thing, right? Like, when playing with a bunch of developers or enthusiasts of the system, like, you're able to scaffold so much of what you already know into whatever you're playing. So you really don't need a lot to get going, right? So I think for that particular playtest group, it really appealed to us because it was just like, okay, cool. And then the changes that were made, right? Like the threat and effect versus like position and effect, and just the subtle changes, I think were really effective. And the reason why I picked it up at first was because I wanted to run old cyberpunk modules, Forge in the Dark, basically. Like that was the goal. I was like, okay, and I played a couple of the other cyberpunk offerings in Forge in the Dark, and they're all great games, right? But they're more geared towards campaign play and more geared towards that Forge in the Dark style sandbox play, right? With like various other themes attached to it, like Neon Black is very much about class struggle. The Runners in the Dark is sort of a take on Shadowrun. So like something that was able to capture just like, all right, I got this module, like I want to run this old cyberpunk module from the 80s, right, or 90s, and like what do I need to do that? Like I just want to get rid of everything that I don't need and have exactly what I do need to it. It's like all I need to do is pick up CBR+PNK, and then I have the old module and we can go, basically. And that's what made it like super appealing to me.
Awesome.
That's all for me, Your Honor.
And then we got Sammy with us. Sammy, this is, I think, your first time playing a Forges in the Dark game. Is that correct?
That is, yeah.
Awesome.
I saw you like literally yesterday on Twitter asking for more players. I'm like, hey, I love Cyberpunk. I'm in. And kind of snuck in at the last minute.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, but also what it was like to play Cyber+Punk.
Yeah, so a bit about me. I'm Sammy. I'm on the internet. I'm the main GM on Star Wars Actual Play podcast over at Greasy Panda Gaming, on where podcasts exist. I had a blast playing this system. I'm really dumb, so the easier the system is, the better I do. So this was really easy to pick up. Like I read the rulebook literally last night and was able to play it this morning. So easy to pick up, easy to play. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask Ray or Emmanuel?
Oh gosh, not really. No, nothing that I can think of. This is exactly what I wanted out of a cyberpunk game.
Awesome.
I got to punch something.
If you are watching right now or later and you have questions, feel free to drop them down in the chat. We'll either bring them up on stream if it's live, or see if we can get you an answer later on. But Ray, this is your first time running this adventure? Yes? No?
No, this is actually my fourth time running the adventure, and was definitely among the most fun. And I told everybody off screen this, but the last time I ran it kind of didn't go so well, so I was like really nervous running into it. And I feel like our RPGs are tough, right? Like I've been so focused on like actually publishing RPGs and making RPGs that I really have had no time to play over the last like 8 months basically. And like before that, I was playing like 3 times a week. Like I was going hard into Forged in the Dark and hard into playing Blades in the Dark games, and I was going like hardcore. And then like I felt so confident back then running games because I had so many reps under my belt. But then like coming back to it after a while, I was like, I got this. And then I kind of like fell on my face, as you're wont to do when you GM sometimes. So like I definitely had a little. I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was nervous going into it, but I'm so grateful for all of you because you're all such wonderful players, and we're able to like just collaborate and just keep the momentum going. So thank you so much. I had such a blast running the game today. It was so fun. And again, I started off so nervous, but it ended up being so much fun. I'm so glad I played.
Awesome. And then like for people who are GMing for the first time, like Framework is going to be included in the augmented set, which is a little bit more of like the GM side of things, I think. But do you have any advice or things you would want to say about running the game? And also, if you have questions for any of us, feel free to toss them out.
Yeah, I think that Forge in the Dark games in general, like the structure of like a session is always it always spirals, right? It always kind of goes out of control, and it always has this thing where it like goes out of control, and then the players are able to like pull out of it last minute, right? That's kind of like the meta structure of Forge in the Dark. So like being aware of that, but being aware of that, like I would say, try to make it like don't go guns a-blazing right off the bat, because there's like not a lot of places you can go once stuff hits the fan. Like it's pretty one-dimensional at that point. That was something I learned like the hard way, I think, and I forgot and relearned. And then also I think like having a strong hook is always really important. Having a very strong hook, hard framing the situation evocatively as best you can, and trying to end as well like with a strong like epilogue or denouement, because I think most players all remember the beginning and the end, and like all media, right? Like if you like what's it called, Game of Thrones, right? Like everybody loved Game of Thrones in the beginning, and the ending fell on its face and everybody hated it. What's it called, what's that show from 2004, Lost? The same way, right? Like if you don't get the beginning right, they don't care, and if you get the ending wrong, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth, and doubly so if you had a good beginning. So always try to have a good beginning and ending is like kind of my creative philosophy.
Awesome. I love it. Any questions you want to ask us?
Yeah, I mean, let me think. Yeah, how because all of you are obviously like really experienced players. So like how as a player do you gauge like, okay, I should when's a good time for me to take the spotlight, and more so because Jeremy is especially really good at this. How do you know when to help spotlight other players through your play?
Yeah, that's a good reason. I love the way Jeremy actually specifically just names it, and it's actually a tool I've seen a lot of people use. Like, and I do think especially playing virtually, it's very helpful to just be like, and I want the spotlight off of me now, or like, and I think it's a great time to fly. Like, as long as you playing with a GM who's not super persnickety about some of this stuff, I think just naming for me, like, and I'm done right now. Like, I don't stop looking at me, go away is always kind of a helpful thing when you sense maybe you've been talking for too long, which I do sometimes. Jeremy, any thoughts on that?
So many, but I'll keep them short. It especially helped when a lot of our characters were designed to do very special things, so it allowed for other characters to have weaknesses. And one, for me personally, my play style is always like any scene I place myself into, I'm always looking for a venue to take myself out of it again, or to pass the direction or the camera to another player. That's just me personally. If you're someone who's just trying to figure out how to engage in that sort of style, it's always, we don't get the same like body cues that we do in real life games, right? So like you can feel when someone is like getting done talking or finishing their thing, or like the energy is dying out for them. And then you can kind of like pick up. That's not easy in an online space. So honestly, be hyper verbal about it. Just be like, hey, I'm doing this and my next plan, and also have like the empathy to like pass it to the person who maybe hasn't like engaged in a while. Always check in with the other players too, because some people may be more reactionary players. Some people may just be there to like hang, like just hang, and whenever they can put a funny quip into a scene, they'll do that. But otherwise, they may not want the spotlight forcibly put on them. But I don't know. I guess online wise, to sum it up, I always think of anytime I want to act, I know that there are other people on stage who also need to act, because this is not a one person show. So I'm always looking to very explicitly and verbally tell someone like, hey, I'm kicking the ball to you next, so get ready because I'm about to pass some stuff off to you. And it's also, you also have to be the type of person to be okay with if they don't take your direction. Like, all you can do is pass it off. And if they're like yes anding you, maybe they can yes but you, or maybe they can like no but you. You have to be okay with that, because at the end of the day, the agency of their character is theirs, unless you're playing like in a housed character game where like multiple people are inhabiting one character. That's a different kind of play style. But ultimately, or I think traditionally, you have to be okay with whatever their agency decision is after you've passed the ball, essentially.
Sammy, Emmanuel, any thoughts?
I mentioned it during one of the breaks, but my strength as a player is reacting to scenes, whereas my weakness is I'm not that great at setting myself up for anything. So I do better when other people set up for me, and I can just kind of jump in there and expand on it, which why playing with Jeremy is such a delight. So
Yeah, I think that Jeremy said it all. Nothing to add.
Awesome. Emmanuel, I would love to hear from you. This is you created the game, but how often do you get to play it is one question. What was it like to play? Do you have any questions you want to ask?
Honestly, I don't get to play a lot any games, especially now with the campaign going on. But the times I played, it was very good. The characters we make, we always have to think about how they are going to progress in such a short time, like just one session. You have to you need to make an arc, but just a small arc, because maybe you die at the end. So this was a very good exercise for me. I like this. I like to work on pressure. It was very, very interesting. And playing again, like today, it was the same feelings that I had the first time. I think that it's the game. I did this game for me mostly, and it works well that way. For me, it's a very good game.
Awesome. If anybody has any questions they want to ask, this is a great time to drop them in. I had a blast playing. I thought it was tremendous. Like I said, Emmanuel, you and I have talked about trying to get on for a stream for a while, so I'm really glad we were able to make it happen during the campaign. I know a ton of people who love and thrill for this game. I know Dan over at Gym Rooms, my friend Alexi, a lot of other designers who I love are really do this. And I also know in our player community, like we had a ton of people who could not play this session because it was during the day. And who were very mad they could not play this session. They were very excited about the game. Chalklad says they want to know when they can play it. Right now, go download it. Also, once you back it, we can talk about timeline for a second. And then the other question that got asked in chat is the Character Keeper live right now? Like, we got a lot of great comments on the Character Keeper. Emmanuel, I know you were like working on that yesterday. Is it up anywhere? Is it like on the itch page? Is there a place where they can access the Character Keeper?
On the itch page, there's already a Character Keeper. using Google Sheets, but it's for the current version. This character keeper you use today, it's already with some modifications for the augmented edition.
Awesome.
It's not live yet.
Okay, it's not live yet, but there's another one you can go use, and this one will be up eventually to replace that. Awesome. I loved it. I had a blast. I like cyberpunk games have a tendency to bloat a whole lot. So seeing somebody take it in a very minimalist direction is very interesting, right? Because there's so much space for how things could work. Beta Red is another very minimalist cyberpunk game I played last year. It did some really interesting thing with augments. I think one of the strengths of cyberpunk and the way that you've written it pulls a lot on a question I asked halfway through, which is just as a reminder, like, items just give narrative freedom, and the answer is yes. And that's a lot of what like the mods do the same thing. It's like, yes, you have this mod, so now you have narrative freedom to do the things this mod would allow you to do. Even the flexibility of, like, sometimes they're glitchy, sometimes they're in debt, sometimes you stole it and now there are people after you, even if it's just an ex-girlfriend, right? Like, those are things that I really loved, the tension of those small considerate ads. And I'll say, like, the biggest strike to me on this, not strike, like, thing that struck me, not strike against it in any way, shape, or form. The thing that struck me is, like, I immediately am like, okay, but I do want to play these characters again. I'd love to, but actually the most interesting thing about it that I think feels better from a cyberpunk standpoint is, if I wanted to run a campaign of this, I would say, okay, here's the things happening in the background of this world, and that plot's going to move forward. But every time we play, for the most part, it's just going to be new characters who are now getting woven into that plot. And they can leave messages for future characters. You can find things on the internet from the past from characters that have played earlier. But almost the best way to do a campaign of this would actually just be to play a series of one-shots where some sort of big thing is happening in the world, and you're just touching it part by part by part, where the players get a chance to experience it from 1,000 different angles, but they don't have to take one player along with them for the whole ride if they don't want to. And it was the first game that ever made me think, like, man. And it's a genre that I think feels really good for that. What would it be like to run a campaign, but the campaign is just a series of one-shots, especially with the epilogue pieces having that motif of, now you're going to add a thread, now you're going to speak something in. Now you can still pick up on that if you want to play again next time, and just drive forward. So I think my question is, have there been thoughts around campaigns, or have people been asking for that? As much as I love the one-shot conceit, and as much as even if I was going to run this, I would run it was like same player base or different player based, almost Wes March's style, and just like, here's the bad thing happening in the world, and we're going to follow this plot line through, but it's going to be with different runners all the time.
Yeah, we have been hit by some people, like, asking about campaign mode. I like it. I like the what you said. What you would do. My group did last year, and it worked really well. And I was able to, like, GM one session and play another section, and it's mixed it up very good. I'm working with creating some small system to aid this campaign style, but probably is going to be like that, like a series of one-shots, maybe around the cause, maybe against an antagonist, a mega corporation, a gang, or something like that. The focus is really the one-shot style, but I think I can find some space to talk a little and give hints and tips to how to turn that into a campaign mode.
Yeah. Jeremy's doing some theorizing in the chat right now along with some other people, but yeah, I do love the idea of characters as disposable, like Jeremy's willingness to be like, hit me hard, maybe I die, maybe I don't at the end. Like, that feels good in cyberpunk, right? Like, the lethality and the ability to do that. But even saying, like, this is why I brought up the chat, like, hey, I played this character, but, like, also maybe on the next run I don't want to, but maybe you're like, that was a cool character, I'm just going to pick them up, and, like, if they come back in the next one, like, I'm running them now, and just how have they shifted a little bit. I don't even care if they're more powerful, right? Like, that's not the concern. It's just, like, I don't want my cyberpunk characters to feel like they're big world movers. I want them to feel like they are a 1,000 small insects picking at the larger corpse of a capitalist system that is seeking to destroy them. That's what I want, and I think the system does it so well, but in a way that immediately makes me go, yeah, but like, I want to know what happens next with these weird dead, we're bringing people back to life digitally consequences, right? So which Ray, just to your GMing, like, super kudos and great adventure to make us think about like what next with all this stuff. No, but tremendous experience on my end. I had an absolute blast playing. I loved hearing, like, watching Jeremy totally like exploit every single piece of FITD technology on rolls.
But explain it every way.
Explain
like,
it really
every step
well,
along the
trigger
way.
great things, bring it. And this is the great thing. It was really easy to incorporate if it's like, I don't know if this is in the system or not, like commonly Jeremy would say, but like, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Is that right? And if you know Forza in the Dark well enough, it's like, yeah, that we totally do that. That's great. And I think that's when you see a robust and hardy system design, you see that take place, as well as Sammy being like, I've never played this game, like this type of game before. I'm here for it. Let's run. Right. Like, both of those edge experiences, I think, show the tremendous flexibility of this game and play. And just kudos to both of you for the tremendous design that's happening. Just a reminder, people, you can go to the link down in the corner of the screen to go check it out. It's Nikes. I just lost not the stream, but everybody else. I have no idea what just happened. Hold on, everybody. Hold on, everybody.
You sweet,
That was a-
sweet
that
boy.
was a tree on the epilogue road.
So weird. So weird.
We're still live.
We are still. No, I didn't lose anything except for that one window, and it went blink and then just totally stopped. Hold on. Whoo! Weird. All right, we're back, all in different positions except for me. But I don't know what's happening. The campaign is live right now. People can go check it out over at the link down in the corner. Yeah, Shiva coming at us. Shiva mad. Shiva mad. Shiva coming at us. Please go back it if you have not had a chance yet. If you can't back it for whatever reason, we totally understand that. If you're not backing things on Kickstarter right now, we totally understand that also too. I would ask is maybe share it with somebody who you know who might be interested in checking it out, or go pick up the original on itch and wait for the full release to come out to retail and online stores if you're not supporting games on Kickstarter right now, which we know some people are not. So if that's whatever you're at in that situation, I'd love it. I know that Gorgor and Trash mentioned going to get it. Trash said this is the most dangerous channel because every time Trash watches a stream, they buy a game. And I love to hear that. So I'm super excited about it. But Ray, Emmanuel, thank you guys so much for coming, for spending today with us. Sammy, Jeremy, thank you so much for playing with us. We've got another stream coming up tonight at 8 p.m., so I'm going to go order some pizza in a little bit and take a break for a little while. We're playing Flame in the Abyss. It's one of Angela, last name can't remember, on Philosophem over on Twitter, and Phoenix Flame 24 over on itch. We are playing one of their games tonight. It's about loss, memory, and lighting your way out of the dark abyss where they all intertwine. It's a 3-player RPG where we all control one character in common and explore their memories of loss together. I'm very excited to sit down and play that tonight. Come on back for that. And check out all the amazing things right now that are coming out of the Together We Jam RPG game. Down We Go and Through the Void are our house OSR systems. These are games inspired by the underlying system Together We Go that powers those games. There are just some tremendously cool narrative OSR things coming out of that space. If you like Forged in the Dark games, you should absolutely go check out those games. They are different, but they have a lot of similar vibes to them. But with that said, I don't have a good way that we ever close things out, so we're all going to wave at the screen until I take us offline. Thanks everybody for coming to play and for watch. We'll see y'all soon. And he moves the transition over.